Spectrovision Radio.
Oh my God, I'm not really dead, am I? I mean, my body is dead. I can see it below me, but I'm floating. I can look down and see my body lying flat in the hospital bed. Everyone around me thinks I'm dead, but I'm not. I want to shout, "Hey, I'm not really dead." This is so incredible. The nurses are pulling a sheet over my head. People I know are crying. I'm supposed to be dead, but I'm still alive. It's strange because my body is absolutely dead while I'm moving around from above. I'm alive. These are the words spoken by a man in deep hypnosis, reliving a death experience. His words come in short, excited bursts and are full of awe as he sees and feels what it's like to be a spirit, newly separated from his physical body. This man is my client, and I have just assisted him in recreating a past life death scene while he lies back in a comfortable recliner chair. A little earlier, following my instructions during his trance induction, this subject was age regressed in a return to childhood memories. His subconscious perceptions gradually coalesced as we worked together to reach his mother's womb. I then prepared him for a jump back into the mist of time by the visual use of protective shielding. When we completed this important step of mental conditioning, I moved my subject through an imaginary time tunnel to his last life on Earth. It was a short life because he had died suddenly from the influenza epidemic of 1918. This is just one of many mind-blowing stories in one of the most profound books ever written, Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, which we are going to dive into today. Let's go. Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Conscious Observers. Today, we're going to do another book report, one of my favorite books of all time, Michael Newton's Journey of Souls. And I'm going to read the entire book from beginning to end, but not every page. Okay, I have certain things marked in certain pages along the way, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you this full progression. Because what this book does is it goes into what's called the life between lives, that period after you die and before your next incarnation. And this documents every step of the way. It's actually a pretty linear process, and it's really amazing. And this book is just incredible. And I'm going to read from the beginning to the end so that you can see this entire progression of events in the life between lives, because it's very important. So this happens, a lot of this book, it comes through the client sessions. So I'm going to focus on that because I think that's the most profound. We're hearing it from the people's mouths. Like, this is actually they're in a deep hypnotic trance-like state, and they are recounting firsthand what's happening in this life between lives. So, the data doesn't get any better than that. For those of you that don't know who Dr. Michael Newton is, he is one of the most credible hypnotherapists ever to be. I mean, this guy was way ahead of his time, and he got into past life regression accidentally. He was just using hypnosis as a clinical therapist. He's a PhD. He was very prestigious in his career, and he was helping people heal, phobias, anxieties, overeating, stuff like that through hypnosis, which is very standard practice. It's very effective. And in doing so, he had there was one patient that started the whole thing, and she went back to a past life. And it was so clear and vivid and profound that he knew she wasn't just hallucinating or imagining. And then he was able to take her back there in subsequent sessions. And then he was like, whoa, this is wild. So as any good scientist would do, he started following that thread of investigation. It's like, okay, well, let's keep doing this. Let's see how far we can go. And that set him on this journey. And what he really liked, more so than past life regression, was what he calls life between lives, LBL. And he created a whole technique for LBL, and he became really famous and well-known. Had over 7,500 clients that he was regressing, a huge body of work over 40 years. I mean, this man was as good as it gets, and he was very, very careful to never lead anybody. He didn't, when people are in a trance-like state, it's pretty easy. They're pretty suggestible, impressionable, and open to suggestion. You can lead people places. He was very conscious of this. He was very skeptical at the beginning. He was trying to disprove that any of this was even real. So he was definitely not trying to lead anyone or trying to like have this outcome. Back in when he was doing this in the 70s and 80s and 90s, this was kind of taboo. And he was a very well known, he was on Oprah and stuff. He was a clinical hypnotherapist. So he definitely didn't want to be like known as the past life guy. So at the beginning, he was trying to disprove all this. And then it just kept, I mean, it was irrefutable. You're talking about thousands and thousands of clients over decades, hundreds of thousands of pages of these types of experiences that I'm going to read to you. And through all this, he was like, okay, since obviously this is all very real, well, let's start cataloging it. And then what he did, what made him super unique is that he wasn't just throwing out random stories. He cataloged all this into these two amazing books. This one here, which is called Journey of Souls, one of the most epically profound books ever written. And then he had Destiny of Souls. And the first one especially is like a guide book for the afterlife. It literally just walks you through every step of the process. And this isn't just his opinion or one or two people. I mean, this is based on thousands of these sessions. And he had so many people describing the same things, even using the same terminology and words for it. And to the point where he was just like, okay, well, there's obviously certain parts of the afterlife that seem to be very real and objective. So no matter your age or your culture, your background, anything, you're going to certain of these places and following a pretty standard progression. Now, he gets into there's advanced souls and beginner souls and experienced souls and good souls and bad souls and all that stuff. And we get into all that. So not every single soul has this exact same afterlife progression, but there are some pretty obvious standards. So we're going to get into all that. It's super wild. So without further ado, let's dive in. So I started off, the intro was chapter 1, basically just showing this very common occurrence where when you die, you kind of, consciousness leaves your body and you look down and very often you see your body before you kind of proceed to the spiritual world. For thousands of years, the people of Mesopotamia believed the gates into and out of heaven lay at opposite ends of the great curve of the Milky Way, called the River of Souls. After death, souls had to wait for a rising doorway of Sagittarius in the autumn equinox. When day and night are equal, reincarnation back to Earth could only take place during the spring equinox through the Gemini exit in their night sky. This is what they used to think. He goes on to say, well, my subjects tell me that soul migration is actually much easier. The tunnel effect they experience when leaving Earth is the portal into the spirit world. People always talk about this tunnel of light. He's saying this is the portal into the spirit world. Although souls leave their body swiftly, it seems to me entry into the spirit world is a carefully measured process. Later, when we return to Earth in another life, the route back is described as being more rapid. The location of the tunnel in relation to Earth has some variations between accounts. Some newly dead people see it opening up next to them right over their bodies, while others say they move high above Earth before entering into the tunnel. In all cases, however, the time lapse in reaching this passageway is negligible once a soul leaves Earth. Here are the observations of another individual in this spiritual location. So I'm going to try to vary my voice between, it's always him and his patient or client. And so instead of always saying, Dr. N says this, and then client says this, I'll just try to vary my voice between the two so that you can tell it's a back and forth conversation. All right. Dr. N starts, you are now leaving your body. See yourself moving further and further away from the place where you died, away from the plane of Earth. Report back to me what you are experiencing. At first, it was very bright, close to Earth. Now it's a little darker because I have gone into a tunnel. Describe this tunnel for me. It's a hollow, dim vent, and there is a small circle of light at the other end. Okay, what happens next? I feel a tugging, a gentle pulling. I think I'm supposed to drift through this tunnel. And I do. It's more gray than dark now because the bright circle is expanding in front of me. It's as if... Go on. I'm being summoned forward. Let the circle of light expand in front of you and at the end of the tunnel and continue to explain what is happening to you. The circle of light grows very wide and I'm out of the tunnel. There is a cloudy brightness, a light fog. I'm filtering through it. As you leave the tunnel, what else stands out in your mind besides the lack of absolute visual clarity? It's so still. It is such a quiet place to be in. I am in the place of spirits. Do you have any other impressions at this moment as a soul? Thought. I feel the power of thought all around me. I just relax and let your impressions come through easily as you continue to report back to me exactly what is happening to you. Please go on. Well, it's hard to put into words. I feel thoughts of love, companionship, empathy, and it's all combined with anticipation, as if others are waiting for me. Do you have a sense of security, or are you a little scared? I'm not scared. When I was in the tunnel, I was more disoriented. Yes, I feel secure. I'm aware of thoughts reaching out to me, of caring, nurturing. It is strange, but there is also the understanding around me of just who I am and why I'm here now. Do you see any evidence of this around you? No, I sense it, a harmony of thought everywhere. You mentioned cloud-like substances around you right after leaving the tunnel. Are you in a sky over Earth? No, not that. But I seem to be floating through cloud stuff that is different from Earth. Can you see Earth at all? Is it below you? Maybe it is, but I haven't seen it since I went into the tunnel. Do you sense you are still connected to Earth through another dimension, perhaps? That's a possibility. Yes. In my mind, Earth seems close, and I still feel connected to Earth, but I know I'm in another space. So that's the end of that for the most part. And I really think that's cool because I talk a lot about, I call Earth the simulator, and that the spirit world is just another side of this of the simulators, like the loading area or the waiting area, and that, whenever you exit this physical part and you're in the non-physical part, you're still earthbound. You're still very human and possess human consciousness and all of your human earth life experiences and memories and all that kind of stuff. So it's really neat that they're saying, this soul is saying that, in my mind, Earth seems close. Even though they're, at this point, they're dead, they're through the tunnel and they're in the spirit world. She's like, I can't see Earth, but I know it's there and it feels close. They're still connected. All right. So now we're going to move on to the next chapter. I'm going to kind of just do a little bit from each chapter so that you can get the whole shebang. So this is called Homecoming, chapter 3. Since encountering friendly spirits who meet us after death is so important, how do we recognize them? I find a general consensus of opinion among subjects in hypnosis about how souls look to each other in the spirit world. A soul may appear as a mass of energy, but apparently it is also possible for their capacity to project former life forms when communicating with each other. Projecting a human life form is only one of an incalculable number of appearances that can be assumed by souls from their basic energy substance. In Chapter 6, I will discuss another feature of soul identity, the possession of a particular color aura. Most of my subjects report the first person they see in the spirit world as their personal guide. However, after any life, we can be met by a soulmate. Guides and soulmates are not the same. If a former relative or close friend appears to the incoming soul, their regular guide might be absent from the scene. I find that usually guides are somewhere in close proximity, monitoring the incomer's arrival in their own way. The soul, in my next case, has just come through the spiritual gateway and is met by an advanced entity who obviously has had close connections with the subject over a prolonged series of past lives. Although this soulmate entity is not my client's primary guide, he is there to welcome and provide loving encouragement for her. So he's basically saying that whenever you make it through the tunnel and you're in the afterlife, you're greeted by someone. And often you're greeted by your primary guide. But sometimes you're also greeted by like loved ones or other parts of your soul cluster. But the neat thing is what he's getting at is that oftentimes they appear human. So even though you're not in human form anymore, you're in the spirit world, they have this human projection. And a lot of times they project like their favorite human sort of mask or face. Like, so it won't even be like how they looked when they died. Oftentimes it'll be the favorite part of that life, maybe when they're in their 30s or their 20s or their 40s, like they pick, like they're like, this is when I felt best about myself, and they project that out. All right, so this is case number 6. Dr. Newton, what do you see around you? It's as if I'm drifting along on pure white sand, which is shifting around me, and I'm under a giant beach umbrella with brightly colored panels, all vaporized, but banded together too. Is anyone here to meet you? I thought I was alone, but in the distance, light moving fast toward me. Oh my gosh. What is it? Oh my gosh, it's Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie, I'm over here. Why does this particular person come to meet you first? Uncle Charlie, I've missed you so much. Again, why does this particular person come to meet you first? Because of all my relatives, I loved him more than anybody. He died when I was a child, and I never got over it. How do you know it's Uncle Charlie? Does he have features you recognize? Sure. Just as I remembered him. Jolly, kind, lovable. He is next to me now. Haha. What is so funny? Uncle Charlie is just as fat as he used to be. And what does he do next? He is smiling and holding out his hand for me. Does this mean he has a body of some sort with hands? Well, yes and no. I'm floating around, and so is he. It's in my mind. He is showing all of himself to me. And what I am most aware of is his hand stretched out to me. Why is he holding out his hand to you in a materialized way? To comfort me, to lead me further into the light. And what do you do? Well, I'm going with him, and we are thinking about the good times we spent playing together in the hay on the farm. And he is letting you see all this in your mind so you'll know who he is? Yes, as I knew him in my last life, so I won't be afraid. He knows I am still a little shocked over my death. This subject had died suddenly in an automobile accident. Dr. N. Then, right after death, no matter how many deaths we may have experienced in other lives, it is possible to be a little fearful until we get used to the spirit world again. It's not really fear, that's wrong. More like I'm apprehensive, maybe. It varies for me each time. The car crash caught me unprepared, and I'm still a little mixed up. All right, let's move forward a bit more. What is Uncle Charlie doing now? He is taking me to the place I should go. On the count of 3, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Tell me what is happening. There are other people around, and they look friendly as I approach. They seem to want me to join them. Continue to move forward. Do you get the impression they might be waiting for you? Yes. In fact, I realize I have been with them before. No, don't go. What's happening now? Uncle Charlie's leaving me. Why is he going away? Look deeply with your inner mind. You must realize why Uncle Charlie is leaving you at this point. Yes, he stays in a different place than I do. He just came to meet me, to bring me here. I think I understand. Uncle Charlie's job was to be the first person to meet you after your death and see you were okay. I'd like to know if you feel better now and more at home. Yes, I do. That's why Uncle Charlie has left me with the others. So a curious phenomenon about the spirit world is that important people in our lives are always able to greet us, even though they may already be living another life in a new body. This will be explained in Chapter 6. In Chapter 10, I will examine the ability of souls to divide their essence so they can be in more than one body at a time on Earth. Usually at this juncture in a soul's passage, the carry-on luggage of Earth's physical and mental burdens are diminishing for 2 reasons. First, the evidence of a carefully directed order and harmony in the spirit world has brought back the resemblance of what we left behind before we chose life in physical form. Second, there is the overwhelming impact of seeing people we thought we would never meet again after they died on Earth. So this just goes into, and there's obviously each chapter has multiple case studies and goes on and on and on. I'm just reading one from each chapter to give you a feel. This is just I'm gonna zip through this book, but it's so cool to see. And I understand there's 2 sides of this. There's people that think that this is sort of like a, archonic controlled, soul trap, and that they are projecting these, kind of AI avatar, projections out there to greet you, to pull you into the light, to trap your soul in this reincarnation cycle. I get that. I've actually dove into that in many videos. And I'm not saying that can't be the case. What I think is really interesting is that thousands and thousands of sessions that he did. And when you research near-death experiences, NDEs, thousands and thousands of NDEs, millions of NDEs, people always say the same thing. The feeling you get when you leave the physical and you go to the non-physical is one of pure, unconditional love. So it's just, we're talking 90-something% of NDEs talk about this pure, unconditional love. And I understand there could be some very advanced machinery on the other side that's very good at convincing us of these things. But millions and millions, billions of lifetimes, and just millions of these anecdotal stories, the vast majority of them talk about this overwhelming love and acceptance. Now, if that's all some sort of fake archonic control system, then they're doing a hell of a job, right? Like, because why would it be so convincing? I mean, you got to think, even then you've shed your physical body, you've shed your emotions, that kind of stuff. So you are going to be looking at stuff a little more wide-eyed, and people still report back this place of pure unconditional love and acceptance. And we'll get into it more as we go through this book. So the more you learn, like, it's easy on the surface level when you hear conspiracy theories and you see stuff to paint this picture to where it's this kind of soul trap. But the more you actually dig in, the more you learn, the more you talk to people, the more you read, it's just the evidence is overwhelming that that's not the case. It doesn't mean that there's not places on the other side that are a little less positive that you can get stuck in. Absolutely. And I went into all that when I did my Monroe book report. There definitely are, belief system territories that you can get stuck in and addicted to and trapped in. And there are personal hells that you can create and be stuck in. Absolutely. All that exists. But we're talking about the kind of mainstream flow of souls in the afterlife here, not the one-offs. Okay. Next chapter. Chapter 4, the displaced soul. There are souls who have been so severely damaged that they are detached from the mainstream of souls going back to a spiritual home base. Compared to all returning entities, the number of these abnormal souls is not large. However, what has happened to them on Earth is significant because of the serious effect they have on the other reincarnated souls. There are two types of displaced souls: those who do not accept the fact that their physical body is dead and fight returning to the spirit world for reasons of personal anguish, and those souls who have been subverted by or had complicity with criminal abnormalities in a human body. The first instance, displacement of the soul's own choosing, while in the second case, spiritual guides deliberately remove these souls from further association with other entities for an indeterminate period. Okay, in both situations, the guides of these souls are intimately concerned with rehabilitation, but because these circumstances are quite different between each type of displaced soul, I will treat them separately. The first one we call ghosts. All right, so we're getting into ghosts. Displaced souls, he's basically breaking it into two categories. There's the first, who they die, and instead of just naturally going with the flow up to the spirit world, they get locked into this earth realm. They don't migrate up. So they are stuck. And a lot of times they refuse to believe. Their consciousness refuses to believe that they are dead. So they're still going about their daily life. And they're usually stuck in like places like houses and stuff like that, wherever they died, because they're like, this is my house, I'm not leaving. And that's what we call ghosts. And Robert Monroe, in his books, he goes into, that's what Lifelines is. It's like a soul retrieval thing where you go in and you retrieve out your stuck souls and all that. So it is a thing. And that's what we call ghost. And then the second type are basically souls that are bad, evil, twisted. There's something wrong with them. And they need to be rehabbed because they are creating havoc. I mean, we've seen just through history how one person can be responsible for atrocities that affect millions of people. So there are some souls that are just have gone off the rails, and there seems to be sort of a rehabilitation program for those souls. And there are spirit guides for all of this, but there is free will as well. So it's a tricky situation. Okay, so the first type we call ghost. These spirits refuse to go home after physical death and often have unpleasant influences on those. So I don't have to read all this because we know essentially what a ghost is, but he goes into, more often than not, these uncommon haunted spirits are tied to a particular geographic location. We talked about that. Then he says, if we have a spirit world governed by order with guides who care about us, how can maladaptive souls who exert negative energy upon incarnated beings be allowed to exist? He's basically asking that question. If everything is so orderly in the spirit world, there's a hierarchy of teachers and guides and ascended masters, and there's these, we'll get into it, but council of elders, and there's all sorts of, you have a soul cluster, and you have all these advanced beings and spirits around. Why can there just be so much kind of chaos too? And he says one explanation is that we still have free will, even in death. Another is that since we endure so many upheavals in our physical universe, then spiritual irregularities and deviations from the normal exodus of souls ought to be anticipated as well. Also, ghosts only represent a divided portion of a disturbed soul's energy, while the rest of a soul's energy has returned to the spirit world for reunification. Discarnate, unhappy spirits who trap themselves are possibly part of a grand design. When they are ready, these souls will be taken by the hand away from Earth's astral plane and guided to their proper place in the spirit world. So it's really interesting. He also says that these ghosts only represent a fraction of that. So we've talked about this in other videos I've done, but that, you have your higher self. Your higher self is the totality of all of your lifetimes, right? And only a portion of that is streamed into this physical incarnation. So what he's saying is, even when this physical body dies, there's a chance that most of your energy returns, but maybe a portion of it doesn't. And some of these ghosts are literally just a little fraction of your partitioned energy. So if, say, 20% of your higher self comes into this physical lifetime, and then when you die, 18% goes back up, just making up numbers. But say a situation like that, well, that 2% that's kind of left here, that residue that kind of got stuck, that could be conceived of as a ghost and perceived as a ghost. But it's not even all of you. It's not even all of the energy that was here in this lifetime. It's just kind of a residue. It's a little part that got stuck behind. So that stuff happens just because no system is perfect and the system isn't perfect. Then he says, I turn now to the far more prevalent second type of disturbed souls. So basically, the ghosts are not very prevalent, few and far between, but this next type is. These are souls who have been involved with evil acts. We should first speculate, and I get this question a lot. People will say, okay, well, if you believe in reincarnation, that you get to choose your next, body and avatar, and we'll get into all that and all this stuff, then why are there like evil people and why do really bad things happen? So that's kind of what we're talking about here. It says we should first speculate if a soul can be considered culpable or guilt-free when it has occupied an offending criminal brain. So he's basically saying, say you just get unfortunate and you get put into a body where that body is kind of messed up. It's like buying a lemon car, right? You pay the money, you buy the car, you're not doing anything wrong, but sometimes it just breaks down and you're just like, God, this car sucks, right? We've all had those cars. You didn't do anything as a driver. You didn't do anything wrong, but the car just has problems. So he's basically saying, can we even hold these souls accountable for what happened in this body? Because like I've talked about before, we are a higher self and a human self. We're a merger of two things in this body. And the higher self comes from the spirit world, from the cosmos. And the human self is born of the earth. And it's like a vehicle. And not everything's perfect. Sometimes things just get messed up. So, say that's the case, and say you're a soul and you get put into a body that has some issues, it's wired wrong, or it's not born right, or something happens along the way. Are you responsible for that? So it's an interesting thought process. Is the soul mind or human ego responsible, or are they the same? Occasionally, a client will say to me, I feel possessed by an inner force that tells me to do bad things. And there are mentally ill people who feel driven by opposing forces of good and evil over which they believe they have no control. After working for years with the superconscious minds of people under hypnosis, I have come to the conclusion that the five-sensory human can negatively act upon a soul's psyche. Meaning that if you're in a bad body, that human body can leave a negative imprint on the soul. So the soul can come in pure or positive and leave harmed and negative with this imprint. Interesting, huh? We express our eternal self through dominant biological needs and the pressures of environmental stimuli, which are temporary to the incarnated soul. Although there is no hidden, sinister self within our human form, some souls are not fully assimilated. People not in harmony with their bodies feel detached from themselves in life. Okay, so let's fast forward here to the case study and hear it from their point of view. Grab a drink of coffee real quick. All right. This is sort of a long video, guys, so get comfy. This is all important because we all live, we all die. We all go to the spirit world. And even if you're determined to never go back there, and this is your last sojourn, your last incarnation, well, you've been there many times before, you have family and friends there, and more than likely you are going back there. So this is all very important information for every human. Okay, Dr. Newton. Do souls bear responsibility for their involvement with flawed human beings who injure others in life? Yes. those who have wronged others savagely in a life, I knew one of these souls. What do you know about this entity? What happened after the soul returned to the spirit world following that life? He had hurt a girl terribly and did not rejoin our group. There was extensive private study for him because he did so poorly while in that body. What was the extent of his punishment? Punishment is a wrong interpretation. It's regeneration. You have to recognize this is a matter for your teacher. The teachers are more strict with those who have been involved with this cruelty. What does more strict mean to you in the spirit world? Well, my friend didn't go back with us. His friends, after this sad life where he hurt this girl. Did he come through the same spiritual gateway as yourself when he died? Yes, but he did not meet with anybody. He went directly to a place where he was alone with the teacher. And then what happened? After a while, not long, he returned to Earth again as a woman, where people were cruel, physically abusive. It was a deliberate choice. My friend needed to experience that. Do you think this soul blamed the human brain of his former host body for hurting the girl? No, he took what he had done back into himself. He blamed his own lack of skill to overcome the human failings. He asked to become an abused woman himself in the next life to gain understanding, to appreciate the damage he had done to the girl. If this friend of yours did not gain understanding and continued involving himself with humans who committed wrongful acts, could he be destroyed as a soul by someone in the spirit world? You can't destroy energy exactly, but it can be reworked. Negativity that is unmanageable in many lives can be readjusted. How? Not by destruction, by remodeling. So fascinating. So basically this guy, hurt a girl very bad in a previous life. And when he died and went through the tunnel, went to spirit world, instead of being greeted with a celebratory friend group, the teacher is basically like, dude, over here now. And basically that's when you have your past life review. And, these teachers are pretty stern, right? And they sent him back into Earth, this time as a girl who received similar abuse. So you can see it from that point of view. This is like a reconditioning. In those situations, the girl, the person that went into life was him, which he chose that life. And this is my point of view. The people who hurt that girl in that life are what we call NPCs. That's why we have NPCs. NPCs are a part of the system that can be programmed to carry out acts that are done for very specific karmic, purposes. In this case, this sort of readjustment, remodeling, rehabilitation of the soul. So it's not that the system takes good souls and makes them do evil things. We actually have what Dolores Cannon called backdrop characters. We have these NPCs. These are avatars that are in the system to be used by the system to carry out particular things, just like in this situation, so that this soul can be rehabilitated. So now they understand what they did wrong in the last life. He says that, yes, his body was physically defective, but his soul should have been powerful enough to overcome those limitations of the physical body and to not do the bad things he did. Part of what we're here for is training. This is a simulator for consciousness development. So even if you get put in a bad body, you can't just throw in the towel and say, oh, I got a bad body, so, F it, I'm going to do whatever I want. It's like, no, dude, you have to overcome this. That's part of the training. So he didn't do that. He succumbed to it. He did a bad, evil act. So his reconditioning is go in. Now you're going to be the girl who gets abused. And now when he comes out of that life, he'll have a completely different understanding. He'll see what he did from both points of view. And then he'll be a real rehabilitated soul. Theoretically. So interesting, huh? Chapter 5, Orientation. After those entities who meet us during our homecoming have dispersed, we are ready to be taken to a space of healing. This will be followed by another stop involving the soul's reorientation to a spiritual environment. In this place, we are often examined by our guide. I tend to call the cosmology of all spiritual locations as places or spaces simply for convenient identification because we are dealing with a non-physical universe. The similarity of descriptions among clients of what they do as souls at the next two combined stops is remarkable. Although they do have different names for them, I hear such terms as chambers, travel berths, and interspace stopover zones, but the most common is the place of healing. I think of the healing station as a field hospital or a MASH unit for damaged souls coming off Earth's battlefields. I have selected a rather advanced male subject who has been through this revitalization process many times to describe the nature of this next stop. All right. I like it when we get to the advanced souls because when he's talking to the more advanced souls, he breaks it down. There's basically three. There's new souls, there's intermediate souls, and there's advanced souls. And when we talk to the advanced souls, he asks much deeper questions. All right, case 11. Dr. Newton, after you leave the friends who greeted you following your death, where does your soul go next in the spirit world? I am alone for a while, moving through vast distances. Well, then what happens to you? I am being guided by a force I can't see into a more enclosed space, an opening into a space of pure energy. What is this area like? For me, it is the vessel of healing. Give me as much detail as possible about what you experience here. I'm propelled in, and I see a bright, warm beam. It reaches out to me as a stream of liquid energy. There is a vapor-like steam swirling around me at first, then gently touching my soul as if it were alive. Then it is absorbed into me as fire, and I am bathed and cleansed from my hurts. Is someone bathing you, or is this light beam enveloping you from out of nowhere? I am alone, but it is directed. My essence is being bathed, restoring me after my exposure to Earth. I have heard this place is similar to taking a refreshing shower after a hard day's work. Yeah, after a lifetime of work. It's better, and you don't get wet either. You also don't have a physical body anymore, so how can this energy shower heal a soul? By reaching into my being. I am so tired from my last life and with the body I had. Are you saying the ravages of the physical body and the human mind leave an emotional mark on the soul after death? God, yes. My very expression, who I am as a being, was affected by the brain and body I occupied. Even though you are now separated from the body forever? Yes, each body leaves an imprint on you for at least a while. There are some bodies I have had that I can never get away from altogether. Even though you are free of them, you keep some of the outstanding memories of your bodies in certain lives. Okay, now I want you to finish with your shower of healing and tell me what you feel. I am suspended in the light. It permeates through my soul, washing out most of the negative viruses. It allows me to let go of the bonds of my past life, bringing about my transformation so I can become whole again. Does the shower have the same effect upon everyone? When I was younger and less experienced, I came here more damaged. The energy here seemed less effective because I didn't know how to use it completely to purge the negativity. I carried old wounds with me longer despite the healing energy. I think I understand. So what do you do now? When I am restored, I leave here and go to a quiet place to talk to my guide. So this place that he's come to call the shower of healing is only a prelude for the rehabilitation of returning souls. The orientation stage that immediately follows, especially with younger souls, involves a substantial counseling session with one's guide. The newly refreshed soul arrives at the station to undergo a debriefing of the life just ended. Orientation is also designed as an intake interview to provide further emotional release and readjustment back into the spiritual world. So, it's crazy. It's like Earth life is so intense and leaves so many imprints and residue on you, through trauma and emotions and just the experience, the intensity of it, that afterwards you have to go wash it off. So they have this shower of healing. That's like the station that you go to. It showers you with this pure light, and it basically tries to wash off and blast out all the negative, what they call viruses. It's like decontaminating yourself from the Earth life experience. So crazy. Earth is a wild place, y'all. Right? All right. Let's fast forward to the next chapter. Transition, chapter 6. Okay. See how we're doing on time. All right, we're trucking along. Might have to do this in 2 parts. We'll see. All souls, regardless of experience, eventually arrive at a central port in the spirit world that I call the staging area. I have said there are variations in the speed of soul movement right after death, depending upon spiritual maturity. Once past the orientation station, There seems to be no further travel detours for anyone entering the space of the spirit world. Apparently, large numbers of returning souls are conveyed in a spiritual form of mass transit. Okay, I won't read all this, but basically he talks about how they describe this, like this one guy calls it the Los Angeles freeway without gridlock. They describe a station, like a train station or an airport, where souls are coming and going, but they're coming from every direction, and it's just endless lines of souls from every direction. And they come into this main station, and then they leave in different places. But it's all very orderly. Like there's no chaos. People aren't freaking out. It's very, very orderly. So that's what this case study here gets into, okay? Case 14. Dr. N, you are now ready to begin the final portion of your homeward journey toward the place where your soul belongs in the spirit world. On the count of 3, all the details of this final leg of your travels will become clear to you. It will be easy for you to report on everything you see because you are familiar with the route. Are you ready? Yes. 1, we are getting started. 2, your soul has now moved out of the area of orientation. 3, quickly, what is your first impression? Distances are unlimited, endless space, forever. So are you telling me the spirit world is endless? To be honest, from where I am floating, it looks endless. But when I begin to really move, it changes. Changes how? Well, everything remains formless. But when I am gliding faster, I see I'm moving around inside a gigantic bowl turned upside down. I don't know where the rims of the bowl are, or even if any exist. It's an interesting imagery there. Then movement gives you the sense of a spherical spirit world? Yes, but it's only a feeling of enclosed uniformity when I am moving rapidly. Why does rapid movement, your speed, give you the feeling of being in a bowl? It's strange. Although everything appears to go on straight when my soul is drifting, that changes to a feeling of roundness when I'm moving fast on a line of contact. What do you mean by a line of contact? Toward a specific destination. How does moving with speed on a given line of travel change your observational perception of the spirit world to a feeling it is round? Because with speed, the lines seem to bend. They curve in a more obvious direction for me and give me less freedom of movement. So when you're just walking normal or moving or floating normal, everything seems to go in straight lines. But whenever the person tries to go very fast, it curves around, almost as if like you can't really escape, right? Because if you tried to go really fast and escape, you would just curve back around. It's the impression I get. Let's keep going. By less freedom, do you mean less personal control? Yes. Can you more precisely describe the movement of your soul along these curving contact lines? It's just more purposeful. When my soul is being directed someplace on a line, it's like I'm in a current of white water, only not as thick as water because the current is lighter than air. Then, in this spiritual atmosphere, you don't have the sense of density such as in water. No, I don't. But what I'm trying to say is I'm being carried along as if I were in a current underwater. Why do you think this is so? Well, it's as if we're all swimming, being carried along in a swift current which we can't control, under somebody's direction, up and down, from each other in space with nothing solid around us. Do you see other souls traveling in a purposeful way above and below you? Yes. It's as if we start in a stream and then all of us returning from death are pulled into a great river together. When do the numbers of returning souls seem to be the highest to you? When the rivers converge into... I can't describe it. Please try. We are gathered into a sea, where all of us swirl around in slow motion. Then I feel as though I'm being pulled away to a small tributary again, and it's quieter, further from the thoughts of so many minds, going to the ones I know. Later in your normal travels as a soul, is it the same as being propelled around in streams and rivers as you just described? No, not at all. That is different. We are like salmon going up to spawn, returning home. Once we get there, we are not pushed about this way. Then we can drift. Who is doing the pushing while you're being taken home? Higher entities, the ones in charge of our movements to get us home. Entities such as your guide? Above him, I think. What else are you feeling at this moment? Peace. There is such peace you never want to leave again. Anything more? Oh, I have some anticipation too, while moving slowly with the energy current. All right. Now I want you to continue to move further along with the current of energy closer to the area where you're supposed to go. Look around carefully and tell me what you see. I see a variety of lights in patches separated from each other by galleries. By galleries, do you mean a series of enclosures? Hmm, more like a long corridor, bulging out in places, stretching out away from me into the distance. And the lights? They are people, the souls of people within the bulging galleries reflecting light outward towards me. That's what I'm seeing, patches of lights bobbing around. Are these clusters of people structurally separated from each other in the bulges along the corridor? No, there are no walls here. Nothing is structural with angles and corners. It's hard for me to explain exactly. You are doing fine. Now I want you to tell me what separates the light clusters from each other along this corridor you are describing. The people are divided by thin, wispy filaments, making the light milky, like the transparency of frosted glass. There is an incandescent glow from their energy as I pass by. How do you see individual souls within the clusters? As light dots. I see masses of dots hanging in clumps, as hanging grapes all lit up. Do these clumps represent various groups of soul energy masses with spaces in between them? Yes, they are separated into small groups. I am going to my own clump. What else do you feel about them as you pass by on the way to your cluster? I can feel their thoughts reaching out, so varied, but together too. Such harmony. But, go on. I don't know the ones I'm passing now. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's pass on by these clusters that seem to bulge out along a corridor. Give me an example of what the whole thing looks like to you from a distance. Huh, a long glowworm, its sides bulging in and out. The movement is rhythmic. You mean the corridor itself appears to move? Yes, parts of it, swaying as a ribbon in the breeze while I am going further away. Continue floating and tell me what happens to you next. I'm at the edge of another corridor. I'm slowing down. Why? Because. Oh, good. I'm coming in toward the site where my friends are attached. And how do you feel at this moment? Fantastic. There is such a familiar pulling of minds reaching out to me. I'm catching the tail of their kite, joining them in thought. I am home. Is your particular cluster group of friends isolated from the other groups of souls living in other corridors? No one is really isolated, although some of the younger ones may think so. I've been around a long time, though, and I have a lot of connections. So you felt connections with those other corridors, even with spirits in them you might not know from past experience? I do, because of the connections I have had. There is a oneness here. When you are moving around as a spirit, what is a major difference in your interactions with other souls compared to being in human form on Earth? Well, here no one is a stranger. There is a total lack of hostility toward anyone. You mean every spirit is friendly to every other spirit, regardless of prior associations in many settings? That's right. And it's more than just being friendly. In what way? We recognize the universal bond between us that makes us all the same. There is no suspicion toward each other here. How does this attitude manifest itself between souls who first meet? By complete openness and acceptance. Living on Earth must be difficult for souls then. It is. For newer ones especially, because they go to Earth expecting to be treated fairly. When they aren't, it's a shock. For some, it takes quite a few lives to get used to the Earth body. And if the newer souls are struggling with the Earth conditions, are they less efficient when working within the human mind? I would have to say yes, because the brain drives a lot of fear and violence into our souls. It's hard for us, but that's why we come to Earth, to overcome. In your opinion, might the newer souls tend to be more fragile and in need of group support upon returning to their cluster? Yes, that's absolutely true. We all want to return home. Will you let me stop talking now so I can meet with my friends? So how interesting. So basically they're saying that souls at a soul level are pure and are connected and are accepting and are loving and all this stuff of there's this oneness there. Then when you come to Earth, there's separation, there's tribalism, there's like the human body, it's very aggressive and it's territorial and it has all of these things. It's driven by fear and lust and these types of things. And these are very hard. Like these are not natural things that the soul, at a soul level, at a non consciousness spirit level, deals with or thinks about or is subjected to. But what he says is that that's why we come to earth. That's precisely why. So it's not like this is punishment. It's like when you go to the gym, you put a bunch of weights on the bar and you lift heavy weights, and it's hard. It's hard on your muscles. It makes you sweat. Sometimes you hurt yourself. You do it on purpose. Why? Because it challenges you, because you grow and you get stronger because of the resistance. Earth seems to be a spiritual gym for our consciousness. I just find that very interesting. So if you ever think Earth is insane, because it is, just know it's that way on purpose, and that once you return to the spirit world, it's not as insane over there. It seems. Let's continue. Chapter 7, Placement. My impression of the people who believe we do have a soul is that they imagine all souls are probably mixed into one great congregation of space. Many of my subjects believe this too, before their sessions begin. After awakening, it is no wonder they express surprise with the knowledge that everyone has a designated place in the spirit world. When I began to study life in the spirit world with people under hypnosis, I was unprepared to hear about the existence of organized soul support groups. I had pictured spirits just floating around aimlessly by themselves after leaving Earth. All right. So he goes on. There's like drawings in here. Don't know if you can always see them. I'll put them in Patreon. But there's he talks about how there's groups and subgroups and all this kind of stuff. There's like a hierarchy. There's organization. Kind of like when you go to school, there's grades, and even within that grade, there are, there's, you can be in honors or you can be an AP. You are in different classrooms. Different classrooms are separated from the grade itself. So there's a hierarchy, and that's what we'll get into here. Okay. Case 16, Dr. Newton. Once you leave the staging area and have arrived in the spiritual space where you belong, what do you do then? I go to school with my friends. You mean you're in some kind of spiritual classroom? Yes, where we study. I want you to take me through the school from the time of your arrival so I can appreciate what is happening to you. Start by telling me what you see from the outside. I wonder if they have coffee in the spirit world. If they don't, I'm bringing it. Okay, I had to drink some coffee, and I said that if you're just listening to this, that's not what they said in the book. Back to the book. Dr. Newton, very beautiful. I recognize it because this is where I return after each cycle. What is a classical Greek temple doing in the spirit world? I don't know why it appears to me that way, except it seems natural, since my lives in Greece. All right, let's continue. This is a common thing through not just Michael Newton's books, but a lot of past life and life between life studies, is this Greek Roman architecture, robes that are very reminiscent of the Greek time period, even statues, big columns, big, huge like spaces, like the libraries and things like that, always are described with columns and white marble and very tall and grandiose. There's definitely a Greek and Roman influence in the afterlife, which is crazy fascinating. Does anyone come to meet you? My teacher, Carla. And how does she appear to you? I see her coming out of the entrance of the temple toward me as a goddess, tall, wearing long flowing robes. One shoulder is bare. Her hair is piled up and fastened with a gold clasp. She reaches out to me. Look down at yourself. Are you dressed in the same garments? We all seem to be dressed the same. We shimmer with light, and we can change. Carla knows I like the way she looks. Where are the others? Carla has taken me inside my temple school. I see a large library. Small gatherings of people are speaking in quiet tones at tables. It is sedate, warm, a secure feeling which is so familiar to me. Do all these people appear as adult men and women? Yes, but there are more women in my group. Why? Because that's the balance they are most comfortable with right now. The word balance used by the subject to indicate gender preference is an odd choice, yet it does fit. Balances in chemistry are positive or negative properties, which, when combined with other elements, give proportions. Souls in groups may be inclined toward male and female personages or mixed. So the word balance that this soul is using is actually a chemistry term. Okay, what do you do next? Carla leads me to the nearest table, and my friends immediately greet me. Oh, it's so good to be back. Why are these particular people here with you in this temple? Because we are all in the same study group. I can't tell you how happy I am to be with them once more. Tell me how many people are in this library with you. About 20. Are all 20 very close friends of yours? We are all close. I've known them for ages, but 5 are my dearest friends. Are every one of the 20 people at about the same level of learning? Almost. Some are a little further along than the rest. Where would you place yourself in the group as far as knowledge? Around the middle. As to learning lessons, where are you in relation to the 5 closest friends? Oh, we're about the same. We work together a lot. What do you call them? We have pet names for each other. Why do you have nicknames? To define our essence. We see each other as representing earthly things. What is your pet name? Thistle. And this represents some personal attribute? I am known for sharp reactions to new situations in my rotations, which are life cycles. What is the entity you feel closest to called, and why? Spray. He goes flat out in his rotations, dispensing his energy so rapidly it splashes in all directions, just like the water he loves so much on Earth. Your family group sounds very distinctive. How would you explain to me what you and your friends actually do in this library setting? I go to my table and we all look at the books. Books? What sort of books? The life books. Describe them as best you can for me. They are picture books, thick white edges, 2 or 3 inches thick, quite large. Open one of the life books for me and explain what you and your friends see at the table. There is no writing. Everything we see is in live pictures. Action pictures? Different than photographs? Yes. They are multidimensional. They move, shift from a center of crystal, which changes with reflected light. So the pictures are not flat? The moving light waves have depth? That's right. They are alive. Like crystal holographic video books. How cool is that? Tell me how you and your friends use the books. Well, at first, it's always out of focus when the book is open. Then we think of what we want, and the crystal tunes from dark to light. And it gets into alignment. Then we can see, in miniature, our past lives and the alternatives. Whoa. So they see their past life and the alternatives. We've gone into that in the law of probability, how the alternative decisions are stored and archived, because in quantum mechanics, you can't destroy information. So that information has to be archived and preserved. So they're saying they open these books and they see their past life, but they can also see the alternatives. I wonder if they even have the option to be like, okay, well, let's just go down with the alternative paths for fun. For funsies. How is time treated in these books? By frames, pages. Time is condensed by the life books. I don't want to dwell on your past right now, but take a look at the book and tell me the first thing you see. A lack of self-discipline in my last life, because this is what is on my mind. I see myself dying young in a lover's quarrel. My ending was useless. Do you see future lives in the life book? We can look at future possibilities in small bites only, in the form of lessons. Mostly these options come later with the help of others. These books are intended to emphasize our past acts. If you watched my video last week about law of probability, I talk about this, how you can go back into the past and you can revise the past by jumping onto these archived alternative, timelines, but you can't go to the future because the future is nothing but possibilities. And each of those possibilities has a probability assigned to it. So you can go to a probable future, but you can't go to an actual objective future. And that's exactly what they say right here. Spirit world confirming law of probability. Okay. Would you give me your impression of the intent behind this library atmosphere with your cluster group? Oh, we all help one another go over our mistakes during the cycle. Our teacher is in and out, so we do a lot of studying together and discuss the value of our choices. Are there other rooms where people study in this building? No, this is for our group. There are different buildings where various groups study near us. Are the groups of people who study in these buildings more or less advanced than those in your group? Both. Are you allowed to visit these other buildings where souls study? There is one which we go to regularly. Which one? A place for the newer ones. We help them when their teacher is gone. It's nice to be needed. Help them how? With their homework. But don't the teacher guides have that responsibility? Well, you see, the teachers are so much further along in development. This group appreciates our assistance because we can relate to them easily. Ah, so you do a little student teaching with this group? Yes, but we don't do it anywhere else. Why not? Why couldn't more advanced groups come to your library to assist you once in a while? They don't because we are further along than the newer ones, and we don't infringe on them either. If I want to connect with someone, I do it outside the study center. Can you wander about anywhere as long as you don't bother other souls in the study areas? The person responds with a little evasiveness. I like to stay around the vicinity of my temple, but I can reach out to anyone. I get the impression that your soul energy is restricted to the spiritual space even though you can mentally reach out further. I don't feel restricted. We have plenty of room to go about, but I'm not attracted to everyone. So it does seem that even in the spirit world, they don't have like physical walls. It's not like you can't pass this wall or this spot because there's this big wall, but it's almost more like energetically, like frequency driven. It's like they're attracted to certain places. So they're just magnetically pulled there. And then they feel happy and secure. And then they just get this impression that, oh, I don't need to go anywhere else. Or it's odd. I have this just wild curiosity in my life that just makes me want to go places just to see. So it makes me wonder if in the spirit world, if you just lose that curiosity, if that's a human thing, or if there's something that sort of restricts that curiosity, or if maybe just when you're in a lower level or intermediate soul, you just don't have that curiosity. Maybe that's something that grows over time. I don't know. But you see this a lot where people in the spirit world just kind of stay in their little zones, There's no like mall cops telling them to. They do it. And then there's this page here I just wanted to highlight. It's about the classification of the soul stages and their color. So souls in the spirit world are seen unless they're projecting an image, unless they want to holographically be seen as a particular, like I talked about before, like, oh, when I was 35, I was really good looking and I liked that era of my life. So I want people to see me that way. If they're not putting up that conscious projection, they're just seen as a ball of light. And he goes through here and he talks about how level 1 is beginner, and that's a white light. He calls it bright and homogeneous. Okay. Level 2, intermediate, lower intermediate, off-white. Says it has reddish shades, ultimately turning into traces of yellow. So that's level 2, off-white. Level 3 is intermediate, and it's yellow, solid, no traces of white. So a yellow like the sun. Level 4, upper intermediate, dark yellow, a deep gold, ultimately turning into traces of blue. So deep gold with traces of blues. You're almost advanced at that point. And level 5 is advanced, light blue with no traces of yellow, ultimately turning into traces of purple. So blue with a little bit of purple. And then highly advanced is level 6, dark bluish purple surrounded by radiant light. That's a master level. So that's interesting. Okay. About halfway through here, about an hour in. So yeah, I probably will have to split this into 2 just because I think I'm going to run out of space on my computer here in just a minute. We'll see. Okay. Chapter 8, Our Guides. I've never worked with a subject in trance who did not have a personal guide. Some guides are more in evidence than others during hypnosis sessions. It is my custom to ask subjects if they see or feel a discarnate presence in the room. If they do, this third party is usually a protective guide. Often a client will sense the presence of a discarnate figure before visualizing a face or hearing a voice. People who meditate a great deal are naturally more familiar with these visions than those who have never called upon their guide. I think that's interesting because basically what he's saying is that if you meditate a lot, you will run into your guides a lot more, right? Like I know I do. So then you're more familiar with them, right? If you never meditate and you never really have any sort of connection with your guides, then when you pass over, it's going to be a little more I don't know, unfamiliar. You're going to have to get to know them. You're like, oh, who are you again? Kind of a deal. But you can connect with these guys all through your life. So then whenever you do cross over in the afterlife, you're just like, oh yeah, hey, look, it's home, dude. The recognition of these spiritual teachers brings people into the company of a warm, loving, creative power. Through our guides, we become more acutely aware of the continuity of life and our identity as a soul. Guides are figures of grace in our existence because they are part of the fulfillment of our destiny. Guides are complex entities, especially when they are master guides. Okay, so he goes into quite a bit, pretty dense about guides, but let's go. I like to hear the case studies, so let's jump to that. Case 17, Dr. N. I'm curious about teacher assignments in the spirit world in relation to their abilities to help underdeveloped souls. When souls progress as guides, are they given quite a few souls to work with? Only the more practiced ones. I would imagine large groups of souls needing guides could become quite a responsibility for one advanced guide, even with an assistant. They can handle it. Size doesn't matter. Why not? Once you attain competency and success as a teacher, the number of souls you are given doesn't matter. Some sections or clusters have lots of souls, and others don't. So if you're a senior in the blue light aura, class size has no relation to assignments because you have the ability to handle large numbers of souls. I didn't exactly say that. Much depends upon the types of souls in a section and the experience of the leaders. In the larger sections, they have help too, Who does? The guides you are calling seniors. Well, who helps them? The overseers. Now they are the real pros. I've heard them also called master teachers. That's not a bad description for them. What energy color do they project to you? It's purple. Since guides seem to have different approaches to teaching, what do they all have in common? They wouldn't be teachers if they didn't have a love of training and a desire to help us join them. Then define for me why souls are selected as guides. Take a typical guide and tell me what qualities that advanced soul possesses. Well, they must be compassionate, without being too easy on you. They aren't judgmental. You don't have to do things their way. They don't restrain by imposing their values on you. Okay, those are things guides don't do. If they don't over-direct souls, what are the important things they do, as you see it? They build morale in their sections and instill confidence. We all know they have been through a lot themselves. We are accepted for who we are as individuals, with the right to make our own mistakes. I must say, I have found souls very loyal to their guides. That's why, because they never give up on you. What would you say is the most important attribute of any guide? The ability to motivate you and instill courage. So that's pretty interesting. There's a big, importance, put on the quality of leadership in the human life. Being a leader is seen as one of kind of the top attributes. It's how you run a family, a successful business, a community, a tribe, an army, a country, a world, right? You have to have strong leaders. And it seems even in the afterlife, the spirit world, those same attributes, same qualities, it's kind of like the power versus force, we've gone over this before, but the best leaders lead through power, not force. Power comes from within. Force comes from outside. Force, you have to push someone and convince somebody and force somebody to do something, whereas power comes from your ability to naturally influence from within. Hey friends, quick reminder that my new manifestation course called The Law of Probability is a 21-day manifestation masterclass. It is now out and it is now 50% off, but only till the end of the month. Go to my website, DigiJordan, D-I-G-I, Jordan.com, enter in promo code PROB21 and you'll get 50% off. And you get free admission to our cohort, which starts on January 1st, just a couple weeks from now. And as a group, I'm going to walk you through every day for 21 days. And we are going to manifest your dreams. We're going to make 2026 the best year ever in your life and the best year for humanity. I'm so excited about this year. I'm so excited for you to get this course. I'm so excited for you to join the free cohort on January 1st. Let's do big things. So go to the website now and grab it. This sale is only running to the end of the month, and it also makes a great Christmas gift. All right, back to the show. So it seems like these spirit guides are just leaders in the spirit world, something we should all strive to be. Okay, so let's move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 9, the beginner soul. Now, from here on out, here's how the chapters go. It's really cool because we go through beginner soul, the intermediate soul, the advanced soul, and then life selection, choosing a new body, preparation for embarkation, and then rebirth. So the next 3 chapters are going through the levels of souls. So beginner, intermediate, advanced. And we're going to start with beginner. And it's really interesting because he talks about how most of his patients are beginner souls. And he thinks that most of the souls on earth are what would fall into the category of beginner soul. And I know everybody wants to think of themselves as an advanced soul, but when you look around the world, you don't get the impression that the majority of people are advanced souls. He actually thinks it's only in the couple 100,000 of people are advanced souls, that the vast majority are beginners and intermediate. And that's fine because it's like a school, Obviously, if you went to a school, all the graduates aren't there, right? Once you graduate, you leave the school. So we're in a school for consciousness development. So obviously the people here are students, and that means you're not going to be an advanced soul because at that point, more than likely, you're either on your last grade or you're graduating. You're either senior class or you're a graduate. And when you're in school, the senior class is a smaller percentage of the overall school. So it makes sense, okay? There are 2 types of beginner souls. Souls who are truly young in terms of exposure to an existence out of the spirit world, and souls who have been reincarnating on Earth for a long period of relative time but still remain immature. I find beginner souls of both types in levels 1 and 2. I believe almost 3/4 of all souls who inhabit human bodies on Earth today are still in the early stages of development. I know this is a grossly discouraging statement because it means most of our human population is operating at the lower end of their training. On the other hand, when I consider a world population beset by so much negative cross-cultural misunderstanding and violence, I am not inclined to change my opinion about the high percentage of lower-level souls on Earth. However, I do think each century brings improvement of awareness in all humans. So he talks about how, he says, over the years, I have maintained a statistical count of client soul levels in my case files. And he says, and this makes sense, he says undoubtedly that these are skewed a bit because he's a hypnotherapist. He's a therapist, a clinical therapist. So people come to him because they have problems in life. So he's basically saying that, of course, he's going to get more young souls and intermediate souls because the more advanced souls probably aren't seeking out therapy because they're advanced souls, right? It's kind of like if you're an advanced student, you're probably not going to tutoring as much as a young student or a student who's struggling. So he admits that his data is a little skewed, but here's how he sees things, because this is his counts. And he did this for 40-something years. I think he had something like 7,500 clients. For those who are curious, the percentages of soul level of all my cases are as follows. Level 1, those are the very beginner, like freshmen. Level 1, 42%. Level 2, 31%. Level 3, 17%. Level 4, 9%. Level 5, 1%. 1% of all of his cases are level 5 souls. All right, let's dive right into the case study here. This is a very beginner soul, okay? Dr. Newton, Shabez, now that you have died and returned to the spirit world, tell me what you feel. Cheated. That life was so cruel. I couldn't stay. I was only a little girl, unable to help anybody. What a mistake. Who made this mistake? My leader. I trusted his judgment, but he was wrong to send me into that cruel life to be killed before my life got started. But you did agree to come into the body of Shabez. I didn't know Earth would be such an awful place full of terror. I wasn't given all the facts. The whole stupid life was a mistake, and my leader is responsible. Didn't you learn anything from this life? I started to learn love. Yes, that was wonderful. My brother, parents, but it was so short. Did anything good come out of this life? My brother Ahmed, to be with him. Is Ahmed in your present life? I can't believe it. Ahmed is my husband Bill, the same person. How can... Do you see Ahmed on your return to the spirit world after dying as Shabez? Yes, our leader brings us together here, where we stay. Does Ahmed emit the same energy color as yourself, or are there differences? We are all white. Describe what you do here. While our leader comes and goes, Ahmed and I just work together. Doing what? We search out what we think about ourselves, our experience on Earth. I'm still sore about us being killed so soon, but there was happiness, walking in the sun, breathing the air of Earth, love. Go back further to the time before you and Ahmed had your life together, perhaps when you were alone. What was it like being created? I don't know. I was just here with thought. Do you remember during your own creation when you first began to think as an intelligent being? I realized I existed, but I didn't know myself as myself until I was moved into this quiet place alone with Ahmed. Are you saying your individual identity came more into focus when you began interacting with another soul entity besides your guide? Yes, with Ahmed. Keep to the time before Ahmed. What was it like for you then? Warm, nurturing, my mind opening. She was with me then. She? I thought your leader displayed a male gender to you. I don't mean him. Someone was around me with the presence of a mother and father, but mostly mother. What presence? I don't know. A soft light, changing features. I can't grasp it. Loving messages, encouragement. This was at the time of your creation as a soul? Yes. It's all hazy. There were others, helpers, when I was born. What else can you tell me about the place of your creation? Others loved me in a nursery. Then we left, and I was with Ahmed and our leader. Who actually created you and Ahmed? The one. I mean, in that case study, how crazy is that? I mean, he's taking a brand new soul. Since he can't take her to a past life, well, I mean, she had one past life, but when he tries to take her back to another past life before that, they go to essentially a soul nursery where she's created. So, and it's also interesting how she was like, she was basically like, I didn't know this life was going to be so cruel. Like, that's why she's so resentful. And it's easy to understand that. Like, if you're a new soul and you're thrown into an earth life, and the earth life is crazy or bad or twisted, or, you have a lot of pain or suffering, you're going to think this place is a terrible, horrible, evil place, right? But then the more advanced souls that we'll see later, you start to understand what this place is. You understand the purpose, and you understand the benefit of all this. But at the beginning, obviously, you don't understand. It's confusing and it's troubling. And evidently, obviously, they don't give you any sort of a pre-briefing. There's no tutorial. There's no movie to watch to say, hey, here's what you're getting into. Robert Monroe talked about that too. Your first time in, they kind of fling you in. After that, you go through all the processes of debriefing and, past life review, and you have your guides and your soul cluster and your friends and all this kind of stuff. But at the beginning, you're on your own. So now we're on to chapter 10, the intermediate soul. So this is level 2. These are souls that obviously, they're not advanced yet, but they're also not new. They've been around the block a few times. Once our souls advance past level 2 into the intermediate range of level of development, group cluster activity is considerably reduced. This does not mean we return to the kind of isolation we saw with the novice soul. Souls evolving into the middle development levels have less association with primary groups because they have acquired the maturity and experience for operating more independently. These souls are also reducing the number of their incarnations. Within levels 3 and 4, we are at last ready for more serious responsibilities. The relationship we have with our guides now changes from teacher-student to one of colleagues working together. Since our old guides have acquired new student groups, it is now our turn to develop teaching skills which will eventually qualify us for the responsibilities of being a guide to somebody else. So at this point, you're going from a student to, how when you're in college, like when you're in elementary, you're a little kid and your teacher is this big grown up. And then when you get into high school, there's a little more parity. You can talk to your teachers kind of like you would a friend sometimes. Then when you get to college, you're kind of like friends almost with your teachers, because you look at them as not this this high up person or this, you're kind of like, oh, you're just a couple steps above me. You know what I mean? So it seems like that's when you get to the intermediate soul. You're looking at your guides as oh, I'm close to where you are. I still appreciate your mentorship, but they're no longer this angelic being. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the client. All right. Case study 22. Dr. Newton, by what name are you called in the spirit world? I am Nintham. Oh, I believe if I remember right, yeah, this soul here, Nintham, they had a wild, this was somebody who was coming to Dr. Newton for many years. So Dr. Newton knows all of their past lives, and they were like Cro-Magnon man at one point in the Stone Age. Then they were like a Japanese samurai. They were like all these different people throughout the years, and they were always very rebellious and like a loner. When they were a woman, they rarely had kids. When they were a man, they were usually a nomad. So this is just a soul that's very independent. Nintham, do you have spirits around you right now, or are you alone? I am with two of my longtime companions. What are their names? Raoul and Sinji. And are the three of you part of a larger spiritual group of souls working together? We were, but now the three of us work more by ourselves. What are the three of you doing at this moment? We are discussing the best ways to help each other during our incarnations. Tell me, what do you do for each other? I help Sinji to forgive herself for mistakes and appreciate her own worth. She needs to stop being a mother figure all the time on Earth. How does she assist you? To see my lack of sense of belonging. Give me an example of Sinji's actions to assist you with this issue. Well, she was my wife in Japan after my days as a warrior were over. Raoul likes to pair with Sinji, and I am usually alone. What about Raoul? How do you two help each other? I help him with patience, and he helps me with tendency to avoid community life. Are you always two males and a female in your incarnations on Earth? No, we can change, and do, but this is comfortable for us. Why are the three of you working independently from the rest of your spiritual group? Oh, we see them here. Some have not gone forward with us. A few others are further ahead of us in their tasks. Do you have a guide or a teacher? She is Idis. Idis. It sounds to me as if you have high regard for her. Do you communicate well with Idis? Yes, I do. Not that we don't have our disagreements, though. What is the main area of conflict between the two of you? She doesn't reincarnate much, and I tell her she should have more direct exposure to current conditions on Earth. Are you mentally in tune with Idis to such an extent that you know all about her background training as a guide? It isn't that we can't ask questions, but we can only question what we know. Idis reveals to me what she thinks is relevant to my own experience. Are guides able to screen their thoughts so you can't read their minds completely? Yes, the older ones get proficient at that, knowing how to filter things we don't need to know because this knowledge would confuse us. Will you learn to filter images? I already have, a little. This must be why I've had so many people tell me they have not been given definite answers by their guides as to all their questions. Yes, and the intent of the question is important. When it was asked and why. Perhaps it was not in their best interest to be given certain information that might disrupt them. Aside from her teaching techniques, are you fond of Idis and her terms of her identity? Yes. I just wish you would agree to come with me once. Oh, you would like to actually have an Earth incarnation with her? I have told her we might relate better here if she would consent to come to Earth sometime and mate with me. And what does Idis say to that suggestion? She laughs and says she will think about it if I can prove to her that it would be productive. Nintham, can you tell me if Idis is preparing you to be a guide, assuming you have an interest in that activity? I do have an interest in that activity. Oh, then are you developing as a guide yourself? Don't make too much of it. I'm really no more than a caretaker, helping Idis and taking directions. Do you try and imitate her teaching style? No, we are different. As an apprentice, a caretaker, I couldn't do what she is able to accomplish anyways. When did you know you were ready to be a caretaker and begin assisting others spiritually? It's an awareness which comes over you after a great number of lives that you are more in balance with yourself than previously and are able to aid people as a spirit and in the flesh. Are you operating in or out of the spirit world as a caretaker at this time? I'm out in 2 lives. Are you living in 2 parallel lives now? Yes, I am. Where are you living in this other life? Canada. Is geography important to your Canadian assignment? Yes. I picked a poor family in a rural community where I would be more indispensable. I'm in a small mountain town. Give me the details of this Canadian life and your responsibilities. Taking care of my brother Billy. His face and hands were horribly burned by a flash fire from a kitchen stove when he was 4 years old. I was 10. Are you the same age in the Canadian life as you now in the American one? About the same. And your prime assignment in the Canadian life? To care for Billy, to help him see the world past his pain. He is almost blind, and his facial disfigurement causes him to be rejected by the community. I try to open him to an acceptance of life and to know who he really is from the inside. I read to him and go for walks in the forest holding his arm. I don't hold his hand because they are so damaged. And what about your Canadian parents? I am the parent. My father left after the fire and never came back. He was a weak man who was not kind to the family even before the fire. My mother's soul is not very capable in her body. They need someone with reasoning. Someone physically strong? No. I'm a woman in Canada. I'm Billy's sister. My mother and brother require someone mentally tough to hold the family together and give them a course to follow. How do you provide for the family? I'm a baker, and I'll never marry because I can't leave them. What is your brother's major lesson? To acquire humility without being crushed by a life of little self-gratification. Why didn't you take the role of your burned brother? Wouldn't that scenario provide you with more difficult challenge? I've already been through that one. Note, this subject has been physically injured in a number of past lives. Yes, I suppose you have. I wonder if Billy's soul was ever involved with physically hurting you in one of your past lives. As a matter of fact, he did in one of them. When I was a sufferer, another caretaker stayed with me and I was grateful. Now it is Billy's turn and I am here for him. Did you know in advance your brother was going to be incapacitated before you came into Canadian life? Sure. Itis and I discussed the whole situation. She said Billy's soul would require a caretaker, and since I had negative contact with his soul before in another life, I welcomed the job. Besides the karmic lesson for Billy's soul, there are some for you too, in terms of your being in the role of a woman who is tied down. You can't just take off and roam around as you often do in your lives. That's true. The degree of difficulty in a life is measured by how challenging the situation is for you, not others. For me, being Billy's caretaker is harder than when I was on the receiving end with another soul as my caretaker. Give me the most difficult factor of this assignment for you as a caretaker. To sustain a child through their helplessness to adulthood, to teach a child to confront torment with courage. Billy's life is an extreme example, but it does seem Earth's children have much physical and emotional pain to go through. Without addressing and overcoming pain, you can never really connect with who you are and build on that. I must tell you, the more pain and adversity which come to you as a child, the more opportunity to expand your potential. I mean, we all have trauma, and especially childhood trauma, right? I mean, it's an effective tool for expanding your potential for sure. As long as you don't let it weigh you down. If you can overcome it, then it's a superpower. But one thing, I think we all have in common is you're never going to find a human that doesn't have some form of trauma. It's part of the human experience, it seems. And how are things working out for you as a caretaker in Canada? There is a more difficult set of choices to be made in the Canadian family, unlike my American life, but I have confidence in myself to put my comprehension to practical use. Did Itis encourage or discourage you wanting to accelerate development by living parallel lives? She is always open about this. I haven't done it too much in the past. Why not? Life combinations can be tiring and divisive. The effort may be counterproductive with diminished returns for both lives. Well, I see that you are helping people in both your lives today. But have you ever lived contrasting lives where you did poorly in one life and better in another at the same time? Yes, although that was a long time ago on Earth. This is one of the advantages of life combinations. One life can offset the other. Still, doing this can be rough going. Then why do guides permit parallel lives? Souls are not in a rigid bureaucratic environment. We are allowed to make mistakes in judgment and learn from them. I have the impression you think the average soul is better off living one life at a time. I would say yes in most instances. But there are other motivations to cause us to speed up incarnations, such as the reward for bunching up lives can allow for more reflection out of incarnation. You mean the rest periods between lives might last longer for us after concurrent lives? Sure, it takes longer to reflect on two lives than one. Anthem, I just have a couple more questions on the mechanics of soul splitting. How do you see the manner in which you divide your soul energy into various parts? We are, as particles of energized units. We originated out of one unit. What was the original unit? The maker. Does each part of your soul remain intact, complete within itself? Yes, it does. Do all parts of our soul energy go out of the spirit world when we incarnate? Part of us never leaves, since we do not totally separate from the maker. What does the part that remained in the spirit world do while we are on Earth in one or more bodies? It is more dormant, waiting to be rejoined with the rest of our energy. So interesting. All right, it keeps going. This is a very, very long one, but So you can just see this is an intermediate soul. So the point of this is that they have different things that they're doing. It's like more advanced classes. I mean, this guy is actually his spirit is split into two incarnations, two different humans at once. One in Canada, one in America, and the one in Canada is very tough. He's a woman who's taking care of her burnt and disabled and disfigured brother, and being a caretaker and a leader and all those things, and doing both these things at the same time. So that's just kind of a taste of what being an intermediate soul, what you can do. You have more options. You're given more responsibility. So now we're going to go to the advanced soul, chapter 11. People who possess souls that are both old and highly advanced are scarce. Although I haven't had the opportunity to regress many blues in level 5, they are always stimulating to work with because of their comprehension and far-reaching spiritual consciousness. The fact is, a person whose maturity is this high doesn't seek out a regression therapist to resolve life plan conflicts. In most cases, level 5s are here as incarnated guides. Having mastered the fundamental issues most of us wrestle with daily, the advanced soul is more interested in making small refinements towards specific tasks. We may recognize them when they appear as public figures, such as Mother Teresa. However, it is more usual for the advanced soul to go about their good works in a quiet, unassuming manner. When I was doing the Robert Monroe book report, and he talked about how he got to the number around 6,000, how he thought there was around 6,000 people on Earth that had the same abilities as him to leave their bodies and do the things he could do with the proficiency that he could do. And he was asking his guide, he's like, well, if there's so many of us, why aren't they known? Like, why don't we know these people exist? And his guide told him, he said that they stay to themselves, that they don't want to be known, that they basically use their abilities to enhance their own experience and to help others around them, but they do it in an unassuming way. These are going to be like your shamans and your healers. They live in smaller communities and villages, and they don't have a lot of material things. They're not going to be celebrities and stars and things like that. So they're basically reiterating that here, that the advanced soul, they exist and they're freaking magical, but you'll never meet them. You'll never know it. You might meet them, but you'll never know that they're an advanced soul. Humbleness. That's a trait they often have. Okay, so we'll skip ahead to the case study here. All right. Dr. Newton, what is your spiritual name? Thais. And your spiritual guide kept her African name of Kumara? For me, yes. What do you look like in the spirit world? A glowing fragment of light. What exactly is the color of your energy? Sky blue. Does your light have flecks of another color in it? Some gold, not much. How about Kumara's energy color? It's violet. How does light and color identify the quality of a soul's spiritual attainment? The intensity of mental power increases with the darker phases of light. Where does the highest intensity of intelligent light energy originate from? The knowledge by which the energy of darker light is extended to us comes from the source. Our light is attached to the source. When you say source, you mean God? That word has been misused. How? By too much personalizing, which makes the source less than it is. What's wrong with us doing that? It takes the liberty of making the source too human, although we are all part of its oneness. These, I want you to reflect on the source as we talk about other aspects of soul life and the spirit world. Later, I'll ask you more about this oneness. Now let's go back to the energy manifestation of souls. Why do spirits display two black glowing cavities for eyes when not showing their human forms? It seems so spooky to me. Earlier, he talks about this. How, like, they might be like a light, like the light will be in a humanoid form, but it'll have like voids where the eyes are, and it is spooky. So he's asking her about this. She laughs. That's how Earth's legends of ghosts came about, from these memories. Our energy mass is not uniform. The eyes you speak of represent a more concentrated intensity of thought. Well, if the myths about ghosts are not so fanciful after all, then these black eye sockets must be useful extensions of their energy. Rather than eyes, they are windows to old bodies and all the physical extensions of former selves. This blackness is a concentration of our presence. We communicate by absorbing the energy presence of each other. When you return to the spirit world, do you have energy contact with other souls who may look like ghosts? Yes, an appearance is a matter of individual preference. Of course, there is always a multitude of thought waves around me, mingling with my returning energy, but I avoid too much contact. Why? It is not necessary for me to make attachments here. I will be alone for a while to contemplate and sort out any mistakes from my last incarnation before talking to Kumra. Perhaps we should talk about older souls for a minute. Does Kumra incarnate on Earth anymore? No, she doesn't. Do you know others like Kumra who were here during the early times on Earth and don't come back anymore? A few, yes. Many got on Earth early and got off before I came. Did any stay? What do you mean? Advanced souls who keep coming back to life on Earth when they could stay in the spirit world. Oh, you mean the sages? Yes, the sages. Tell me about them. They are the true watchers of Earth. You know, to be here and to keep watch over what is going on. As highly advanced souls who continue to incarnate? Yes. Don't the sages get tired of still hanging around Earth? They choose to stay and help people directly because they are dedicated to Earth. Where are the sages? They live simple lives. I first came to know some of them thousands of years ago. Today, it is hard to see them. They don't like cities much. Are there many of them? No, they live in small communities or out in the open, in the deserts and mountains, in simple dwellings. They wander about, too. How does one recognize them? Most people don't. They were known as the oracles of truth in earlier times. I know this sounds pragmatic, but wouldn't these old, highly developed souls be more useful helping humankind in positions of international leadership rather than being hermits? Who says they were hermits? They prefer to be with the common people who are most affected by the movers and shakers. What is the feeling one gets when meeting a sage on Earth? Ah, you feel a special presence. Their power of understanding and the advice they give is so wise. They do live simply. Material things mean nothing to them. Are you interested in this sort of service? They are no saints. Oh. No, they are saints. I messed that one up. Like opposite meaning. No, they are saints. I welcome the time when I can stop incarnating. Perhaps the word sage could also be applied to souls like Kumra, or even with the entities to whom she turns for knowledge. No, they are different. They are beyond the sages. We call them the old ones. Are there many old ones working with the souls at Kumara's level and above? I don't think so, compared to the rest of us, but we feel their influence. What do you feel in their presence? A concentrated power of enlightenment and guidance. Could the old ones be embodiments of the source itself? It is not for me to say, but I don't think so yet. They must be close to the source. The old ones represent the purest elements of thought, engaging in the planning and arranging of substances. Could you clarify a bit more what you mean by these highly placed souls being close to the source? Only that they must be close to conjunction. Does Kumara ever talk about these entities who help her? To me, only a little. She aspires to be one of them, as we all do. Is she getting close to the older ones in knowledge? She approaches as I approach her. It is slow assimilating with the source because we are not complete. When you are back in the spirit world and come out of your self-imposed isolation, what do you ordinarily do then? I join with members of my company. How many souls are in your company? 9. Oh, so the 10 of you are a group of souls under the leadership of Kumara? No, they are my responsibility. Then these 9 entities are students whom you teach? You could say that. And they are all in one group cluster, which I assume is your company? No, my company is made up of 2 different groups. Why is that? They are in different progressions. And yet, you are the spiritual teacher for all 9? I prefer to call myself a watcher. 3 of my company are also watchers. Well, who are the other 6? People who don't watch. I want to clarify this using my terms, if you will, these. If you are a senior watcher, 3 of your company must be what I would call junior guides. Yes, but the word senior and junior, that portrays us as authoritarian, which we are not. My intention is not to denote rank. For me, it is just an easy identification of responsibility. Consider the word senior as meaning an advanced teacher. I would call Kumara a master teacher or possibly an educational director. That's okay. I suppose as long as director doesn't mean dictator. It doesn't. Now, Thies, cast your mind to a place where you can see the energy colors of all your company. What do the 6 souls who are not watchers look like? Dirty snowballs. If they are white in tone, what about the rest? Well, 2 are rather yellowish. We are 1 short. What about the 9th member? That's Enras. He is doing quite well. Describe his energy color. He is turning blue. An excellent watcher. He will be leaving me soon. Let's go to the opposite end of your company. What member are you most concerned about and why? Oja Noan. She has the conviction from many lives that love and trust only bring hurt. She has fine qualities, which I want to bring out, but this attitude is holding her back. Oja Noan is developing more slowly than the rest. Don't misunderstand. I am proud of her effort. She has great sensitivity and integrity, which I like. She just requires more of my attention. As a watcher-teacher, what is the one quality Anras has acquired that you want to see in Ojanoan? Adaptability to change. I'm curious if the 9 members of your company advance in a rather uniform way together under your teaching. That's totally unrealistic. Why? Because there are differences in character and integrity. Well, if learning rates are different between souls because of character and integrity, how does this equate with the mental capabilities of the human brain a soul selects? It doesn't. I was speaking of motivation. On Earth, we use many variations of the physical brain in the course of our expansion. However, each soul is driven by its integrity. Is this what you mean by a soul having character? Yes, an intensity of desire is part of character. If character is the identity of a soul, where does desire come in? The drive to excel is internal to each soul, but this too can fluctuate between lives. So where does a soul's integrity fit into this? The extension of desire, integrity is the desire to be honest about self and motives to such an extent that full awareness of the path to the source is possible. If all basic intelligent energy is the same, Why are souls different in their character and integrity? Because their experiences with physical life change them, and this is intentional. By that change, new ingredients are added to the collective intelligence of every soul. And this is what incarnation on Earth is all about. Incarnation is an important tool, yes. Some souls are driven more than others to expand and achieve their potential, but all of us will do so in the end. Being in many physical bodies and different settings expands the nature of our real self. And this sort of self actualization of the soul identity is the purpose of life on our world, on any world. Well, if each soul is preoccupied with the self, doesn't this explain why we have a world of self centered people? No, you misinterpret. Fulfillment is not cultivating self for selfish means, but allowing for integration with others in life that also shows character and integrity. This is ethical conduct. Does Ojanoan have less honesty than Onras? I'm afraid she does engage in self deception. I wonder how you can function effectively as a spiritual guide for the 9 members of your company and still incarnate on Earth to finish your own lessons. It used to affect my concentration to some extent, but now there is no conflict. Do you have to separate your soul energy to accomplish this? Yes, this capacity of souls allows for the management of both. Being on Earth also permits me to directly assist a member of my company and help myself at the same time. The idea that souls can divide themselves is not an easy thing for me to conceptualize. Your use of the term divide is not quite accurate. Every part of us is still whole. I'm only saying it does take some getting used to at first, since you manage more than one program at a time. Very computer-like. So your effectiveness as a teacher is not diminished by having multiple activities. Not in the least. Would you consider the major thrust of your instruction to be on Earth with your human body or in the spirit world as a free entity? They are 2 different settings. My instruction is diversified, but no less effective. But your approach to a company member would be different depending upon the setting? Yes, it would. Wouldn't you say the spirit world is the main center for learning? It is the center for evaluation and analysis, but souls do rest. When your students are living on Earth, do they know you are their guide and are always with them? Some more than others, but they are all sensing my influence at one time or another. Thesey, you are on Earth with me right now as a woman. Are you also able to be in contact with members of your company? Yes. What I am getting at is this. Isn't teaching by example difficult when your Earth visits are rather infrequent these days? If I came too often and worked with them directly as one human being to another, I would be interfering with their natural unfolding. Do you have the same reservations about interference as a teacher operating from the spirit world in a discarnate state? Yes, I do, although the techniques are different. For mental contact? Yes. I would like to know more about the ability of spiritual teachers to contact their students. What exactly do you do from the spirit world to comfort or advise one of the 9 company members on Earth? No answer. Do you know what I am asking? How do you implant ideas? I am unable to tell you. He put a note here that says, I suspect blocking here, but I can't complain. So far, Thesey has been liberal with information, and so has her guide. I decide to stop the session for a minute to appeal directly to Kumra. It is a speech I have given before. Dr. Newton. Kumra, permit me to reason with you through Thesey. My work here is intended for good. By questioning your disciple, I wish to add to my knowledge of healing and bring people closer to the higher creative power available within themselves. My larger mission is to combat the fear of death by offering people understanding about the nature of their souls and their spiritual home. Will you aid me in this endeavor? Thesey answers me in an odd tone of voice. We know who you are. Then would you both assist me? We will talk to you at our discretion. Note. This tells me if I exceed the undefined boundaries of these 2 guides with an intrusive question, it won't be answered. Dr. Newton. All right. Thesey, on the count of 3, you'll feel more comfortable talking to me about how souls function as guides. Begin by telling me in what way a company member on Earth can signal to get your attention. 1, 2, 3, I snap my fingers for added effect. First, they have to calm their minds and focus attention away from their immediate surroundings. How would they do this? By silence, reaching inward to fasten on their inner voice. Is this how one calls for spiritual help? Yes, at least to me. They must expand upon their inner consciousness to engage me on a central thought. On you or on the specific problem that is bothering them. They must reach out beyond what is troubling them in order to be receptive to me. That's difficult when they don't remain calm. Do all 9 company members have about the same abilities to reach for your help? No, they don't. Perhaps Ojanoan has the most problems? She is one that does. Why? For me, getting the signals is easy. It's harder for people on Earth. The energy of directed thought must override human emotion. We teach this, me and my wife teach connecting to the higher self, and everything they're saying here is like so spot on because it's all about reducing the noise and the static to get a nice clear signal. So that's what she's saying is that she's like, she's essentially saying go into a meditative state, but she doesn't speak that way. So she's just saying that you have to quiet everything and you have to connect. And she's saying that it's much easier for her to connect. She says, for me, getting the signals is easy. It's harder for people on Earth. The energy of directed thought must override human emotion. So you have to penetrate all the noise and emotion and doubt and self-talk and all that stuff in your head to be able to make this connection. But it's this natural connection. Between you and your higher self, you and your spirit guide, you and the other side, it's supposed to be this natural flow of information. We just have so much noise and so many barriers up. All right. Within a spirit world framework, how do you pick up the messages of just your company out of billions of souls who are sending out distress signals to the other guides? I know instantly, all watchers do, because people send out their own individual patterns of thought, like a vibrational code in a field of thought particles. You could describe an energy pattern that way, I guess. Okay, then how would you reach back to someone in need of guidance? By whispering answers into their ear. Is that what a friendly spirit does with a troubled mind on Earth? It depends. On what? Are teacher spirits rather indifferent with the day-to-day problems of humans? Not indifferent, or we wouldn't communicate. We gauge each situation. We know life is transitory. We are more detached because without human bodies, we are unencumbered by the immediacy of human emotion. But when the situation does call for spiritual guidance, what do? As watchers in the stillness, we recognize the amount of turbulence from the wake of troubled thought. Then we carefully merge with it and gently touch the mind. Please describe this connection process further. It's a slipstream of thought, which is usually turbulent rather than smooth, from someone in distress. I was awkward at first and still don't have Kumara's skill. One must enter with subtlety to wait for the best receptivity. How can a watcher be awkward? You have had thousands of years of experience. Communicators are not all the same. Watchers, too, have a variety of abilities. If one of my company is in crisis, physically hurt, sad, anxious, resentful, they send out great amounts of uncontrolled negative energy, which alerts me but exhausts them. This is the challenge of a watcher, to know when and how to communicate. When people want immediate relief, they may not be in the proper mode for reflection. Well, in terms of abilities, can you tell me how you were awkward as an inexperienced guide? I wanted to rush in too fast to help without coordinating the patterns of thought we talked about. People can go numb. You don't get through to them when they have intense grief, for example. You are shut out of a clustered mind when attentions are distracted and thought energy is scattered. Do the 9 members of your company sense your intrusion into their minds following a cry to you for help? Watchers are not supposed to intrude. It's more of a soft coupling. I implant ideas, which they assume is inspiration, to try and give them peace. What single thing do you have the most problem with during communications with people on Earth? Fear. Would you enlarge on that? I have to be careful not to spoil my people by making life too easy for them, to let them work out their difficulties without jumping right in. They only suffer more if a watcher moves in too quickly before this is done. Kumara is an expert at this. Is she ultimately responsible for you and your company? Yes, we're all under her influence. All right. So this goes on for a while and it's super duper interesting. But what's so cool about it is they're basically saying that So she has like all these people on Earth that are under her company, she calls them. And she's like their spirit guide. And she's basically saying that, she can like get into their minds if she wants and kind of intervene in their lives if she wants. But she's like, that's not my job. It's not my goal. The person has to learn and they have to work through these things. But she is there to offer inspiration and guidance and motivation. And she does this as like kind of putting voices in their ears or like thoughts in their head that will come through as inspiration. But she was saying that when people are like really in grief and really just in this like moment of distress or panic or anything like that, they're not listening. They're not receptive. So she can only help if the person's receptive. See what I'm saying? So she can't just barge in. She's in a different dimension. So it helps best when you're receptive. It helps best when you're meditating or when you are trying to connect. And that's when they can help. If you are sort of freaking out, then even if they wanted to help, they wouldn't be able to get through to you because you're not receptive. Very, very fascinating. So that's an example of an advanced soul. And it keeps going and going. There's all sorts of wild, wild case studies. And it gets super interesting. I mean, you have to read this book. It's so amazing. But, we have limited time. We're already, we're cooking here. So thank you for hanging in there, guys. We're on chapter 12. We're almost done. So we're at life selection now. So it goes life selection, choosing a new body, preparation, and then rebirth. All right, we'll cruise through these. There comes that time when the soul must once again leave the sanctuary of the spirit world for another trip to Earth. This decision is not an easy one. Souls must prepare to leave a world of total wisdom where they exist in a blissful state of freedom for the physical and mental demands of a human body. Why would we do that? We have seen how tired souls can be when re-entering the spirit world. Many don't want to think about returning to Earth again. This is especially true when we have not come close to our goals at the end of a physical life. Once back in the spirit world, souls have misgivings about even temporarily leaving a world of self-understanding, comradeship, and compassion to go to a planetary environment of uncertainty and fear brought about by aggressive, competing humans. Okay, let's fast forward. This one, okay. We're going to go to case 25. So this is all about, this whole part is about life selection. After you have made the decision you want to come back to Earth, what happens next? Well, when my trainer and I agree the time is right to accomplish things, I send out thoughts. Go on. My messages are received by the coordinators. Who are they? Doesn't your trainer guide handle all the arrangements for incarnation? Not exactly. He talks to the coordinators who actually assist us in previewing our life responsibilities at the ring. What is the ring? That's where I'm going. We call it the Ring of Destiny. Is there just one place like it in the spirit world? Oh, I think there must be many, but I don't see them. All right, let's go to the ring together on the count of 3. When I am finished with my count, you will have the capacity to remember all the details of this experience. Are you ready to go? Yes. 1, 2, 3. Your soul's now moving toward the space of life selection. Explain what you see. I am floating toward the ring. It's circular. A monster bubble. Keep going. What else can you tell me? There is a concentrated energy force. The light is so intense. I'm being sucked inward through a funnel. It's a little darker. Are you afraid? No. I've been here before, after all. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited at what's in store for me. Okay, as you float inside the ring, what are your first impressions? I am a little apprehensive, but the energy relaxes me. I have an awareness of concern for me, caring. I don't feel alone. My trainer's presence is with me too. Continue to report everything. What do you see next? The ring is surrounded by banks of screens. I am looking at them. Screens on walls? They appear as walls themselves, but nothing is really solid. It's all elastic. The screens curve around me. They're moving. Tell me more about the screens. They are blank, not reflecting anything yet. They shimmer as sheets of glass, mirrors. What happens next? I feel a moment of quietness. It's always like this. Then it's as if someone flipped a switch on the projector in a panorama movie theater. The screens come alive with images and there is color, action, full of light and sound. Keep reporting to me. Where is your soul in relation to the screens? I am hovering in the middle, watching the panorama of life all around me. Places, people. I know this city. What do you see? New York. Did you ask to see New York City? We talked about my going back there. Gee, it's changed. More buildings. The cars, it's as noisy as ever. I'll come back to New York in a few minutes. Right now, I want you to tell me what is expected of you in the ring. I'm going to mentally operate the panel. What's that? A scanning device in front of the screens. I see it as a mass of lights and buttons. It's as if I'm in the cockpit of an airplane. And you see these mechanical objects in a spiritual setting? I know it sounds crazy, but this is what is coming through to me, so I can explain to you what I'm doing. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just tell me what you're supposed to do with the panel. I will help the controllers change the images on the screens while operating the scanner with my mind. Oh, you're going to operate the projector as if you were working in a movie theater. Not the projector, the scanner. Anyway, they aren't really movies. I am watching life actually going on in the streets of New York. My mind connects with the scanner to control the movement of the scenes I am watching. Would you say this device resembles a computer? Sort of. It works on a tracking system which converts what? My commands are registered on the panel so I can track the action. Position yourself at the panel and become the operator while continuing to explain everything to me. I have assumed control. I see. Lines converging along various points in a series of scenes. I'm traveling through time now on the lines and watching the images on the scenes. The screens change. And the scenes are constantly moving around you? Yes. Then the points light up on the lines when I want the scene to stop. Why are you doing all this? I'm scanning. The stops are major turning points on life's pathways involving important decisions, possibilities, events that make it necessary to consider alternate choices in time. So the lines mark the pathways through a series of events in time and space. Yes, the track is controlled in the ring and transmitted to me. Do you create the scenes of life while you track? Oh no, I simply control their movement through time on the lines. What else can you tell me about the lines? The lines of energy are roads with points of color light as guideposts that I can move forward, backward, or stop. They're calling these lines, but these are timelines, obviously. As if you were running a videotape with start, fast forward, stop, and rewind buttons? That's the idea. All right, you're moving along the track, scanning scenes, and you decide to stop. Tell me what you do then. I suspend the scene on the screen so I can enter it. What? Are you saying you become part of the scene yourself? Yes, now I have direct access to the action. In what way? Do you become a person in the scene, or does your soul hover overhead while people move around? Both. I can experience what life is like with anyone in the scene or just watch them from any vantage point. How can you leave the panel and go to a scene on Earth while still monitoring the action in the ring? I know you probably won't understand this, but part of me stays at the controls so I can start up the scene again and stop at any time. Perhaps I do understand. Can you divide your energy? Yes, and I can send thoughts back to myself. Of course, the controllers are helping too, as I go in and out of the scenes. So essentially, you can move time forward, backwards, and stop it while tracking. Yes, in the ring. Outside the ring, does time coexist for you in the spirit world, or is it progressive? It coexists here, but we can still see it progress on Earth. It seems to me when souls are in the ring of destiny, they use time almost like a tool. As spirits, we do use time, subjectively. Things and events are moved around and become objects in time. But to us, time is uniform. The paradox I have with time travel is that what is going to happen has already happened, so you could meet your own soul in some human being as you come and go in life scenes from the future. When making contact, the soul in residence is put on hold for a moment. It's relatively short. We don't disturb life cycles when tracking through time. Well, if past, present, and future are not really separate while you are tracking, why do you stop scenes to consider choices when you can already see into the future? I'm afraid you don't realize the real purpose of time use by the controllers of the ring. Life is still conditional. Progressive time is created to test us. We are not shown all possible endings to a scene. Parts of lives are obscure to us. So this is suggesting that there's still free will. You still make choices. It's like a choose your own adventure game. So that's comforting. All right. So time is used as a catalyst for learning by viewing lives when you can't see everything that is going to happen. Yes, to test our ability to find solutions, we gauge our abilities against the difficulty of the events. The ring sets up different experiments to choose from. On Earth, we will try to solve them. In the ring, can you look at life on planets besides Earth? I can't because I'm programmed for tracking time on Earth. Your being able to jump through time from the screen sounds like a ball. Oh, it's stimulating, that's for sure. But we can't frolic around because there are serious decisions to be made. For the next life, I'll have to accept the consequences for any mistakes in my choices if I am not able to handle a life well. I still don't see how you could make any serious mistakes in your choices when you actually experience part of the life in which you plan to live. My choices of life environments are not unlimited. As I said, I probably won't be able to see all of a scene in one time segment. Because of what they don't show you, there is risk attached to all body choices. If one's future destiny is not fully preordained, as you say, why call this space the Ring of Destiny? Oh, there is destiny, all right. The life cycles are in place. It's just that there are so many alternatives that are unclear. Law of probability. I love how he just like nonchalantly says, can you look at life on planets besides Earth? And the other person is not like, oh, there's not life on their planet, silly. They're like, well, I can't because that's not what this Ring of Destiny is about. All right. Pretty crazy, huh? So basically you go into this like tunnel that has these screens all around it. And there's all these other case studies that just keeps going and going and going. And they all describe the same type of thing. It's not identical, but there's so many people that describe that even say things like Ring of Destiny. And they describe it in these different ways, like where there's screens around them, or they're just in this like circle that it's all projected around like holographically. They describe the control panels. One person describes it as like a big like dial that they turn on the wall. Other people's like a cockpit, but it's all the same kind of a feel where you're in this room and there's all these screens around you, and the screens are showing you future lives that you can choose that are your possibilities. Okay, these are your options. It's like when you're playing a game, you're like, okay, you can be the kung fu fighter or the scientist or the warrior or the princess or whatever, right? You get to choose. And then imagine you're choosing the character, but they're also like, okay, let's give you some snapshots of the life. And you can even like go in and like test drive. Like, oh, I want to see what it feels like to be this person, And he was like, okay, so you can see the whole life. Why even do this? And they're like, no, we just saw little snippets. And then there's all these like possibilities of different ways you can go and different, it's like a choose your own adventure. It's like you can go all sorts of different ways. So you don't see the whole life. You just see snippets, which I would assume is what like deja vu is. How you're like, oh, I've been here before. I've seen this before. Maybe you have in the Hall of Destiny. Chapter 13, choosing a new body. How are we doing on time? Hopefully you're still with me, guys. All right. We're almost done. This is getting really good. In the place of life selection, our souls preview the lifespan of more than one human being within the same time cycle. When we leave this area, most souls are inclined toward one leading candidate presented to us for soul occupation. He's very he's like a scientist-y, doctor-y guy. So the way he talks is funny, but essentially saying that, you get to help narrow down your choice of a new body, but then you get to choose. So let's go to this case study. Case 26, Dr. Newton. What was most important to you about this life you have just recalled as Leth the Viking? In their last session, they went to this lifetime as Leth the Viking. This is the person. To experience that magnificent body and the feeling of raw physical power, I have never had another body like that in any existence on Earth. I was fearless because my body did not react to pain, even when wounded. In every respect, it was flawless. I never even got sick. Was Leth ever mentally troubled by anything? Was there any emotional sensitivity for you in this life? Haha, are you kidding? Never. I lived only for each day. My concerns were not getting enough fighting, plunder, food, drink, and sex. All my feelings were channeled into physical pursuits. What a body. All right, let's analyze your decision to choose this great body in advance of Leth's life. At the time you made your choice in the spirit world, did you request this body of good genetic stock, or did your guide simply make the decision for you? Counselors don't do that. Then explain to me how this body came to be chosen by you. I wanted one of the best physical specimens on Earth at the time, and Leth was offered to me as a possibility. You had only one choice? No, I had two choices of people living at this time. What if you didn't like any of the body choices presented to you for occupation? The alternatives of my choices always seem to match what I want to experience in my lives. Do you have the sense the counselors know in advance which body selections are exactly right for you? Or are they so harried it's just an indiscriminate grab bag of body choices? Nothing here is careless. The counselors arrange everything. I have wondered if the counselors might get mixed up once in a while. With all the new babies born, could they ever assign two souls to one baby or leave a baby without a soul for a while? Huh, we aren't in an assembly line. I told you, they know what they are doing. They don't make mistakes like that. I believe you. Now, as to your choices, I am curious if two bodies were sufficient for your examination in the place of life selection. We don't need a lot of choices for lives. Once the counselors get their heads together about our desires, I already had some idea of the right body size and shape and the sex I wanted before being exposed to my two choices. What was the body choice you rejected in favor of Leth? That of a soldier from Rome. Also a strong body I wanted in that lifetime. What was wrong with being an Italian soldier? I didn't want control over me by the state. Too restrictive. As I remember, by the 9th century, much of Europe had fallen under the authority of Charlemagne's Holy Roman Empire. That was the trouble with the soldier's life. As a Viking, I answered to nobody. I was free. I could move around with my band of invaders in the wilderness without any government control. Then freedom was also an issue in your choice. Absolutely. The freedom of movement, the fury of battle, the use of my strength and uninhibited action. Life at sea and in the forest was robust and constant. I know the life was cruel too, but it was a brutal time. I was no better or worse than the rest. But what about other considerations, such as personality? Nothing bothered me as long as I was able to physically express myself to the fullest. Did you have a mate? Children? Too restrictive. I was on the move. I possessed many women, some willing, others not, and this pleasure added to my expression of physical power. I didn't want to be tied down in any way. So Leth's body was your preference as a pure physical extension of sensual feeling? Yes, I wanted to experience all body senses to the fullest, nothing more. So it's really wild. So they go on and on and on. But like, you know how when you're playing a video game, and I know it's weird to like, but I mean, how does this not remind you of a video game? And you're playing a game and like sometimes you're like, you know what? I just want to be the big ogre. You know, they'll always just have the big like a shield and a battle axe. And they're usually kind of slow and clunky and they don't always have the best personalities and stuff, but they're really freaking strong. And sometimes it's fun to just play a game and you're like, I can just smash things and, fight everyone and not be scared. That's basically what the soul's saying is, they're like, hey, you know what? I want a life where I'm just a big, strong, powerful person, And he had two choices. One was a Roman soldier and one was a Viking. And the Roman soldier, he was like, well, I would have had to I'm a soldier, so I'm in the military, so I have to do what I'm told. I have to take direction. So it was a big hulking man, but that man was in a environment where they couldn't be truly free. But the Viking, he was like, I could do whatever I wanted. I was a big, massive, powerful Viking and just had freedom. And obviously, the person did bad things. I mean, talking about, it's obvious that they just were like, I'm big and powerful. No one can stop me. And I'm just it's like Grand Theft Auto style. So it's really interesting how these souls can do this, kind of like create a life where they can joyride and do these things. But then afterwards, like we've gone into in other chapters, you have to deal with you have repercussions for your actions. Okay. There's always a cause and effect. So I'm sure they go into it in this chapter. I'm not going to read it all because we're running out of time, but they, talk about how, even though you went joyride and did all that stuff and it was fun and empowering and everything, when you do unethical things, you have to deal with your morality at some point. You have these past life reviews where you're like, oof, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Right. So, but it's interesting that you have this ability to choose your character based on pure vanity type things like this. But then you also have to deal with your consequences of your actions, which then leads to more growth at a consciousness and spiritual level. So you can see how this all comes around to growth in the end. All right, second to last chapter here. Preparation for embarkation. After souls have completed their consultations with guides and peers about the many physical and psychological ramifications of new life and body choice, the decision to incarnate is made. It would be logical to assume that they would then go immediately to Earth. This doesn't happen before a significant element of preparation occurs. Okay, so in the last chapter, I know I skipped through a lot, but like they go into different case studies of different, choosing characters and choosing families and why and how it all works. And it's really interesting. But now you've chosen your character, okay? You know what your next character is going to be. And like he's saying, you don't just like shoot into Earth. There's a bunch of preparation. So let's go to the case study. Case 28, Dr. Newton. Is it close to the time when you will be leaving the spirit world for another life? Yes, I'm about ready. After you left the place of life selection, was your soul mind made up as to who you would be and the people you were to meet on Earth? Yes. Everything is beginning to come together for me. What if you had second thoughts about your choice of a time frame or a particular human body? Could you back out? Yes, and I have done that before. We all have. At least the people I know. Most of the time, it's intriguing to think about being alive on Earth again. It's interesting. When people first die and they first go to the spirit world, they're like, I'm not going to cuss this time. I feel more enlightened after reading this book. They'll be like, F that. I don't want to go back to that place. It's crazy. But then you go through all of this stuff. And then at a certain point, you kind of get nostalgic. They're like, you know what? I had some good times back then. And then by the time, you're ready to go back in, they're not as hesitant anymore. They're actually kind of looking forward to it. But what if you resisted coming back to Earth shortly before you were due to incarnate? It's not that rigid. I would always discuss the possibilities, my concerns for a new life with my tutor and companions before making a firm commitment. The tutors know when we are stalling, but I have made up my mind. Well, I'm glad. Now tell me, once you are firmly committed to return to Earth, does anything else of importance transpire for you in the spirit world? I must go to the recognition class. What is this place like for you? It's an observation meeting with my new companions, so I can recognize them later. When I snap my fingers, you will go immediately to this class. Are you ready? Yes, I am. Snap. Explain to me what you're doing. I am floating in with the others to hear the speaker. I would like to accompany you, but you'll have to be my eyes. Is that all right? Sure, but we must hurry a little. How does this place appear to you? A circular auditorium with a raised dais in the middle. That's where the speakers are. Are we going to float in and sit down on seats? Why would we need seats? Just wondering. How many souls are around us? Oh, about 10 or 15. People who are going to be close to me in this life to come. That's all the souls you see? No, you asked how many were around me. There are others, further away in groups, to hear the speakers. Are there 10 or 15 souls around you from your cluster group? Some of them. Is this gathering similar to the one near the gateway where you met a few people right after your last life? Oh no, that was more quiet, with just my family. Why was that homecoming meeting more quiet than where you are now? I was still in a daze from losing my body. Here there is lots of conversation milling around, anticipation. Our energy is really up. Listen, we have to move along faster. I have got to hear what the speakers are saying. Are these speakers your tutor guides? No, they are the prompters. Are they souls who specialize in this sort of thing? Yes, they give us the signs by coming up with the ingenious ideas. Okay, let's move in close to the prompter while you continue to tell me what is happening. We form a circle around the dice. The prompter is floating back and forth in the center, pointing a finger at each of us and saying we must pay close attention. I have to do it. I understand. I wouldn't want you to miss a thing, but please explain what you mean by signs. This prompter is a sign to us, so we'll know what to look for in our next life. The signs are placed in our mind now in order to jog our memories later as humans. What kind of signs? Flags, markers on the road of life? Could you be more specific? The road signs kick us in a new direction in life at certain times when something important is supposed to happen. And then we must know the signs to recognize one another too. And this class takes place for souls before each new life. We need to remember little things. But haven't you already previewed the details of your next life in the place of life selection? That's true, but not the small details. Besides, I didn't know all the people who would be operating with me. This class is a final review, bringing us all together. For those of you who will have an impact on each other's lives, that's right. It's mainly a prep class because we won't recognize each other at first on Earth. Do you see your primary soulmate here? She is here. And there are other people that I am supposed to contact, or they will contact me in some way. The others need their signs too. Oh, so that's why these souls are mixed. That's why these souls are a mixed gathering of entities from different groups. They are all going to play some significant role in each other's new life. Yes, but I can't listen to what is going on with you talking. All right. Out of the count of 3, I am going to hold this class in suspension for a few minutes so you won't miss anything. 1, 2, 3. The speaker is now quiet while you are going to explain a little more about the flags and the signs, okay? I guess so. I'm going to call these signs memory triggers. Are you telling me there are special triggers for each one of the people with you? That's why we have been brought together. There will be times in my life when these people will appear. I must try to remember some action by them, the way they look, move, talk, and each will trigger a memory for you? Yeah, and I'm going to miss some. The signs are supposed to click in our memory right and away and tell us, oh, good, you're here now. Inside us, we can say to ourselves, it is time to work on the next phase. They may seem like insignificant little things, but the flags are turning points in our lives. What if people miss these road flags or signs of recognition because, like you said, you forget what the prompter told you? Or what if you chose to ignore the inclinations and take another path? We have other choices. They may not be as good. You can be stubborn, but what? After this class, we usually don't forget the important signs. Why don't our guides just give us the answers we need on Earth? Why all this fooling around with signs to remember and things? For the same reason we go to Earth without knowing everything in advance. Our soul power grows with what we discover. Sometimes our lessons get resolved pretty fast, usually not. The most interesting part of the road are the turns, and it's best not to ignore the flags in our mind. All right, I'm going to count from 10 down to 1, and when I reach 1, your class will start again and you will listen while the prompter gives the signs. I will not speak until you raise the index finger of your right hand. This will be my sign that the class is over and you can relate to me the signs you are to remember. Are you ready? Yes. And you count down. That didn't take long. Yes, it did. The speaker had a lot to go through. I assume you have the details of recognition signs now firmly in your mind. I hope so. Good. Then tell me about the last sign you were given as the class ended. A silver pendant. I will see it when I'm 7 years old around the neck of a woman on my street. She always wore it. How will the silver object be a trigger for you? It shines in the sun to catch my attention. I must remember. You have the capacity to bring your spiritual and earthly knowledge together. Why is the soul of this woman important for you to know? I meet her riding my bike on our street. She smiles. The silver pendant is bright. I ask about it. We become friends. Then what? I will know her only a short time before we move, but it is enough. She will read to me and talk to me about life and teach me to respect people. As you grow older, can people themselves be signs or provide flags to help you make a connection? Sure, they might arrange introductions at the right time. Do you already know most of the souls who will be meaningful people to you on Earth? Yes, and if I didn't, I'll meet them in class. I guess they can set up love relationship meeting too. Oh, the matchmakers. Yes, they do that. But meetings can be for friendship, getting people together to help your career, that kind of stuff. Then the souls who are in this auditorium and elsewhere can be involved with different kinds of associations in your life. Yeah, I'm going to connect with the guy who is on my baseball team. Another one will be a farming partner. Then there will be my lifelong pal from grade school. What if you connect to the wrong person in business, love, or whatever? Does that mean you missed a relationship sign or a red flag or an important event? It probably won't be wrong exactly. It could be a jump start to get you going in a new direction. Okay, now tell me, what is the most important recognition sign you must remember from this prep class? Melinda's laugh. Who is Melinda? My wife-to-be. What is there to remember about Melinda's laugh? When we meet, her laugh is going to sound like tiny bells, chimes. I really can't describe it to you. Then the scent of her perfume when we first dance, a familiar fragrance, her eyes. So you were actually given more than one trigger sign for your soulmate. Yes. I'm so dense, I guess the prompters thought I needed more clues. I didn't want to make a mistake when I met the right person. What is supposed to trigger her recognition of you? My big ears. Stepping on her toes dancing. what we feel when we first hold each other. When you and Melinda came to Earth and were young, did you live close to each other? No, I lived in Iowa and she was in California. It was Claire that I knew in Iowa. Were you interested in Claire romantically? Yes, I almost married her. It was close, and that would have been a mistake. Claire and I weren't right for each other, but going together in high school had become a habit. And yet you left your hometown for California? Yes, Claire didn't want me to go, but my parents wanted to leave our farm and move west. Okay, so they go on and on. So at the end, he says, well, I have enjoyed our talk about the place of recognition. I wonder if there is anything else the spiritual class does for you later in physical life. They say, yes, sometimes when I'm confused about my life and don't know where to turn next, I just imagine where I might be going compared to where I have been, and it comes to me what to do. So super interesting. So they go to this like meetup, this class that's right before they come in. They've already selected the character. They've already done the Hall of Destiny. They've already done all this stuff. And then they're like, okay. And this is so wild because Dolores Cannon used to talk about this, how like it's almost like an acting troupe. And every time you go in, you're like, okay, now this time I'm going to be your brother and you're going to be my sister and you're going to be my boss. You're going to be my mom, right? And it's the same for more advanced, intermediate, and advanced souls. You have like a soul group. You have a returning crew. But you switch roles. And basically what they're saying is that right before you come in, you have like a meeting. And there's these prompters, which is a strange word, but they're basically the leaders that are saying, okay, y'all are all going to go in for this lifetime. You're this role, you're this role, you're this role. At a certain point, you're going to meet this person. And at a certain point, you're going to meet this person. And here's going to be your sign. Okay. When you see this, that means you're in the right place. And when you see this, that means you're in the right place. And you're, these little telltale signs, which is more just deja vu. Like you're going to see something at some point in your life. You're going to be like, whoa, that's really familiar. That stands out, or that's really significant. I've seen that before. Yeah, you have here, right? It's all deja vu. But that means these deja vu moments are good. That means that you're on the right track. That means that you somehow navigated all the craziness of life and made it to this point that you're supposed to make it to, which is nuts. So if that happens, congratulations, because the odds are slim, it seems. But how wild is that? It's also wild. Okay, we're on the end. Chapter 15, rebirth. Here we go, baby. We're going back in. This is the very, very end, okay? We have seen how a soul's decision to come forward into the next life at a specific time and place on earth involves an ordered progression of spiritual planning. As I bring the soul consciousness of my subjects nearer to the moment of their exit from the spirit world, most become quietly introspective, while others engage in light bantering with their friends. These reactions towards what lies ahead depend more upon the individual soul than on the length of time since last incarnation. Rebirth is a profound experience. Those souls getting ready for the embarkation to earth are like battle-hardened veterans girding themselves for combat. This is the last chance for souls to enjoy the omniscience of knowing just who they are before they must adapt to a new body. My last case involves the soul of a woman who offers us a well-defined description of her most recent passage to earth. Here we go, going back in. Case 29, Dr. N. Has the time arrived for you to be born into your next life? Yes, it has. What is uppermost in your mind about returning to Earth? The opportunity to live in the 20th century is an exciting time of many changes. And have you seen this life, or at least parts of it, in advance? Yes, I've been through that. Is there something else you want to talk about that's concerning your next incarnation? I am having a last talk with Pomar on all the alternatives to my project, life. Might this be considered a final exit interview with Pomar? Yes, I suppose it would. Would it help you to talk to me about the contingency plans you have for the next life? I think I have them straight. How did your recognition class go? I assume that phase of your preparation is complete? Uh-huh. I met with the rest of the participants for my project. Are the recognition signs clear in your mind for meeting the right souls at the right time? The signals, my compacts with people. Yes, that's done. Without analyzing or censoring your impressions in any way, tell me what you are feeling at this moment. I'm just gathering myself for the big jump into a new life. There is apprehension, but I'm excited too. Are you a little scared and perhaps wondering if you should go to Earth at all? A little. Concerned for what lies ahead of me, leaving my home here, but happy too at the opportunity. So you have mixed emotions about leaving the spirit world. Most of us do as time draws near. I have second thoughts before some lives, but Pomar knows when I'm lagging behind my schedule. You can't hide anything here, you know. Okay, let's assume it's a go situation for your next life. On the count of three, your decision to return at an appointed time is firm, and you are in the final stage to leave the spirit world. 1, 2, 3. Describe to me what happens now. I say goodbye to everyone. This can be difficult. Anyway, they all wish me well, and I move away from them, drifting alone. There is no great rush. Pomar allows me to collect my thoughts. When I am quite ready, he comes to escort me, to offer encouragement, reassurance, and he knows when I am prepared to go. I sense that you are now more upbeat about the prospect of rebirth. Yes, it's a period of inspiration, expectations, a new body, the course ahead. All right, you and Pomar are together for your exit from the spirit world. I want you to go deep inside yourself and explain to me what you do next as if it were happening in slow motion. Go! We begin to move at a greater speed. Then I am aware of Pomar detaching from me, and I am alone. What do you see and feel? Oh, I stay with it. You are alone and moving faster than what? Away, slanting away, through pillars of whiteness, moving away. Stay with it. Keep going and report back to me. Oh, I'm passing through folds of silky cloth, smooth. I'm on a band, a pathway, faster and faster. Keep going. Don't stop talking to me. Everything is blurred. I'm sliding down into a long dark tube, a hollow feeling, darkness, then warmth. Where are you now? I'm aware of being inside my mother. Who are you? I'm a baby. Well, I'm glad you arrived safe and sound in your new body. Tell me, how old is this baby? 5 months have passed since conception. Is this your usual arrival time as far as the maturation of a child? In my lives, I have arrived at different times depending on the baby, the mother, and my life to be. As a soul, are you in distress if the baby is aborted from the mother's womb for any reason before full term? We know if a baby is going to full term or not. Not being born comes as no surprise to us. We may be around to just comfort the child. Well, if the child does not go full term, is your life assignment as a soul aborted as well? No. There never was a full life assignment as far as that child was concerned. Might some babies who are aborted never have souls? That depends on how far along they are. The ones who die very early often don't need us. Assuming a baby is going to full term, do you know about the convergent habits of other souls with these children? Oh, some float around more than others, going in and out of the baby until birth because they get bored. What do you usually do? I'm average, I guess. Actually, I don't spend a lot of time at any one stretch with babies because it can get pretty dull. They don't do much, especially in the womb, huh? All right, let's take this current situation inside your mother and allow some time to pass. What do you do when you are not with the unborn baby? You want the truth? I'll tell you. Me, I play. It's a fine time to leave and purely goof off. When the baby is less active, I have fun with my friends who are doing the same thing. We bounce around Earth to visit with each other and go to interesting places where we have once lived together in former lives. Don't you and these other souls feel leaving the unborn baby for long periods is shirking the responsibilities of your assignment on Earth? Oh, lighten up. Who said anything about long periods? I don't do that. Anyway, our tough exercises haven't begun yet. So the soul that enters into the child, but the child's just in the womb, not really doing anything. So she's basically saying that the souls will just like go. It's like having an out of body experience. They're just like, all right, well, we're in the earth realm now. We're not in spirit world, so let's go play. And they'll go and like sightsee and stuff. Pretty funny. When you leave the baby for a while, what astral plane are you on in relation to Earth? We are still on the Earth plane, and we try not to get too distracted either. A lot of our fooling around is in the neighborhood of the baby. I don't want you to get the idea there is nothing for us to do with unborn babies. Oh? I'm busy with this new mind, even though it's not fully ready. Why don't we talk more about that? When your soul enters a baby to remain with this new body for a lifetime, give me the scope of this undertaking. Once I attach to a child, it is necessary to bring my mind into synchronization with the brain. We have to get used to each other as partners. I always talk about this. You're a combination of a higher self and a human self. You are a fusion. It's like roommates in a house. This is what other people tell me. But do you and the baby have an affinity for each other right away? Well, I am in the mind of the child, but separate too. I go slowly at first. Okay, why don't you explain what you do with the mind of the baby? It's delicate and can't be hurried. I start with a gentle probe, defining connections, gaps. Every mind is different. Is there any conflict within the child against you? There is a slight resistance in the beginning, not full acceptance while I trace the passages. That's usual. Until there is a familiarization. I keep bumping into myself. As you integrate with the baby, when does it become receptive to the force of your identity as a soul? I'm disturbed by your word force. We never force ourselves when entering an unborn baby. Did it take you many lives to learn to trace a human brain? A while. New souls are assisted with their tracing. Since you represent pure energy, are you tracing electrical brain connections such as neurotransmitters, nerve cells, and the like? Well, something like that. I disrupt nothing, though, while I learn the brainwave patterns of the baby. Are you referring to the thought regulation circuitry of the mind? How this person translates signals is capacity. No two children are the same. Be completely frank with me. Isn't your soul taking over this mind and subjugating it to your will? You don't understand. It's a melding. There is an emptiness before my arrival that I fill to make the baby whole. Do you bring intellect? We expand what is there. Could you be more specific about what your soul actually provides the human body? We bring a comprehension of things, a recognition of the truth of what the brain sees. Are you sure this child doesn't think of you at first as an alien entity in her mind? No, that's why we unify with undeveloped minds. She recognizes me as a friend, a twin, who's going to be part of her. It's as if the baby was waiting for me to come. Do you think a higher power prepares the baby for you? I don't know. It would seem so. Is your work at unification completed before birth? Not really, but at birth, we have started to complement each other. So the unification process does take some time. Sure. While we adjust to each other, and like I told you, I leave the unborn baby at intervals. But what about those souls who join babies at the last minute before birth? That's their style, not mine. They have to start their work in the crib. How far along in age is the body by the time your soul stops leaving the child altogether? At about 5 or 6 years of age, usually we get fully operational when the child starts school. Children under this age can be left to their own devices a lot. Don't you have a duty to always be with your body? If things get bad in a physical way, then I'm back inside like a shot. How would you know this if you're all fooling around with other souls? Every brain has a wave pattern. It's like a fingerprint. We know immediately if the baby assigned to us is in trouble. So you're watching the baby assigned to you all the time, both inside and out, during the early stages of growth. Oh yes, and I watch the parents. They might be having squabbles around the baby, which sets up disturbing vibrations. If this happens to the child, what do you do as a soul? Quiet the child as best I can. Reach out to the parents through the baby to calm them. Give me an example of how you can reach out to your parents. Oh, make the baby laugh in front of them by poking my parents' faces with both hands. That sort of thing further endears babies to parents. As a soul, you can control motor movements of the baby. I'm me. I can push a little on that part of the brain which controls movements, of course. I can tickle the kid's funny bone sometimes too. I'll do whatever it takes to bring harmony to my assigned family. Tell me, what is like being inside a mother's womb? I like the warm, comfortable feeling of love. Most of the time there is love. Sometimes there is stress. Anyway, I use this time to think and plan what I'm going to do after birth. I think about my past lives and missed opportunities with other bodies, and this gives me incentive. And you haven't had the memories of all your past lives and your life in the spirit world blocked by your amnesia? That starts after birth. When the baby is born, does it have any conscious thoughts of who its soul is and the reasons for the attachment? The child mind is so undeveloped it does not reason out this information. It does have parts of this knowledge as means of comfort, which then fades. By the time I speak, this information is locked deep inside of me, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So will you have fleeting thoughts of other lives as a child? Yes, we daydream. The way we play as children, creating stories, having imaginary friends who are real, but it fades. In the first few years of life, babies know more than they are given credit for. All right, now is the time for your birth in this life. Tell me what you're doing. I'm listening to music. What music? I'm listening to my father play records. Very relaxing for him. It helps him to think. I'm a bit anxious for him. Why? He thinks he wants a boy, but I'll change his mind in a hurry. So this is a productive time for you? Oh, yes. I'm busy planning for the approaching time when I will enter the world as a human and take that first breath. This is my last chance for quiet contemplation for the next life. When I come out, I'll be running. That's the end. Woo! Man, oh man. Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton. Such an amazing book. And this was obviously, it would have taken me probably 15 hours to read the whole thing. So this is just a preview. I encourage you to read this book. It is life-changing because this man did so much time and so much effort in researching this, thousands and thousands of sessions with all of these people over decades and decades to compile this information. And he only put stuff in this book if it was stuff that was reiterated over and over and over by many, many different people, so that he was very certain that these were actual things. So he creates this progression of events that happen in the life between lives, and is backed up by just a tremendous amount of evidence and case studies. So it's really interesting. It paints a picture of how the afterlife is and how the spirit world operates. And it's very similar to Earth because, after all, it's just an extension of Earth. It's the non-physical layer of Earth. And it makes me, anyways, I don't know about you, but like you have goals on Earth, you're like, on Earth, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a mechanic, or I want to be a whatever, scientist. Like, it makes you start planning goals for the spirit world. Like, now I want to be a guide, I want to be a spirit guide. So it's like, okay, what can I do in this lifetime, in this sojourn, to prepare me, to set me up, to reduce the need for me having to come back in for another physical incarnation right off the bat, so I can actually be a spirit guide? Because wouldn't that be fun? Before in my life, I'd never thought about my hierarchy, my jobs, or anything like that, in the spirit world. I never even thought about the spirit world. But now, reading this and other books like it makes you start thinking that way. Like, the things that you do here on Earth don't just disappear when you die. You take them with you. You take the lessons, you take the memories, and you take the trauma. But you also take the things like leadership abilities and the abilities to teach and to learn and to adapt. And those things are things that evidently are looked for in the spirit world and can help you rise up. There's like a job placement program in the spirit world based on things that you do here in the physical world. So take this stuff seriously, but also have fun. Whew. Guys, thank you for still being here. Let me know what you thought of this. Leave me a comment. Please like and share this. Remember, we've all been here, and 99 point something percent of us are going back. So this is very, very relevant and helpful information for anyone who's a human, which is probably most of the people listening to this. So anyways, please like and share, subscribe, do all the things you do. Thank you so much for your support. Love you all. And I'll see you in a couple of days. I have an amazing guest on Thursday. Can't wait for that one. Please tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Peace, guys.